Before we start public business, a decision needs to be made about the reduction of minimum lodging periods in respect of 3 items. First is the amendment to the draft Police Complaints and Conduct Honorary Police Regulations lodged by the Comité des Connétables. Chair of the Comité, do you make the proposition under Standing Order 26.7 that the lodging period be reduced to allow your amendment to be debated at this sitting?
I do, sir.
Is the amendment seconded? Proposition seconded? Does anyone wish to speak on the proposition that the lodging period be reduced in relation to this amendment? All those in favour kindly show. Thank you very much. The proposition is adopted. The next matter to consider is the draft Registrar of Intellectual Property Jersey law lodged by the Minister for External Relations. Is this your matter, Deputy Scott?
Yes, it is, sir.
Do you wish to make the proposition under Standing Order 26.7 that the lodging period be reduced to allow this matter to be debated at this sitting?
Yes, please, sir.
Is the proposition seconded? Does anyone wish to speak on the proposition? All those in favour kindly show. Thank you very much. The proposition is adopted and the lodging period reduced. Yes.
I also was going to request that the proposition be debated immediately following the debate of P86 2025, which is the trademarks law, because the Registrar of Intellectual Property law is very much linked with that.
Yes, that would mean that the debate on the intellectual property law would, follow the trademarks law and leapfrog the draft Sea Fisheries minimum size limits amendment regulations and the draft Children Convention Rights Commencement No. 2 Act. Is the proposition seconded?
Yes, sir.
Does anyone wish to speak on the proposition that those matters be debated, as it were, sequentially? All those in favour kindly show. Thank you very much. The proposition is adopted and the consequence is that P98 will be debated after P86. And finally, Minister for Children and Families, is the draft Children and Civil Status Parental Responsibility Jersey Amendment Regulations recently lodged by you. Do you make the proposition that the lodging period be reduced in relation to that matter?
I do, sir.
Is the proposition seconded?
Yes, sir.
Does anyone wish to speak on the proposition? All those in favour of adopting the proposition?
Sir.
The appellant has been called for. Members are invited to return to their seats. The issue is whether or not the lodging period should be reduced in relation to the draft Children and Civil Status Parental Responsibility Amendment Regulations. And I ask the greffier to open the voting. All members have the opportunity of casting their votes. I ask the greffier to close the voting. And the proposition has been adopted unanimously, 39 votes in favour, and the lodging period is therefore reduced. The next item is the draft Dogs Law Amendment Regulations, P63.
Sir, sorry.
Yes, Deputy
Sorry,
Ward.
yeah, it was just I want to postpone the debate on my proposition P94. I have circulated that to members. Do I say that later, or is that an appropriate moment to say this now?
You can say it now. Thank you very much.
It's,
Yes.
Sorry.
Thank you very much. We know that. I think it's off
Okay.
the order paper anyway. So
Okay,
yes,
fine.
that's taken place. But thank you for
No problem.
reminding us, Deputy Ward.
Thank you.
The next item is the draft Dogs Law Amendment Regulations lodged by the Comité des Connétables. The main respondent is the chair of the Environment, Housing and Infrastructure Panel. The last meeting, once the principles have been adopted, the draft regulations referred to the panel under Standing Order 72. The Assembly agreed the debate would resume on the 24th of February. I understand that both the panel and the Comité are content for the matter to resume today. Is that right, Deputy Chair?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Is that right, Conitard? Are members content to resume the debate today? Thank you. Very well, we continue with the second reading. Chair, there is an amendment to the regulations from the committee. Are you content to propose the regulations as amended by your amendment?
I am, sir.
Members content for the regulations to be proposed as amended? Thank you. How do you propose the regulations in second reading?
Thank you, sir. Well, I can take them en bloc, or I can go through the 18 amendments subject to members' wishes, sir. So I'm open to...
You can propose them en bloc, and if anyone wants a separate vote on any particular regulation, then they can have one. Is that what you propose to do?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Do you wish to address members on the regulations?
Yes, sir. In brief, the item regulation 2 in the new proposed details covers Article 1 in the original law, and that refers to the Minister for Environment, his role in amending the list of dangerous dogs in Article 1B, prescribing a fee for registering dangerous dogs, and amending the requirements of Article 5C, which relate to conditions for keeping a dangerous dog. The new Article 3 places definitions at the start of the law relating to the owners, the dangerous dogs, and indeed dangerous out-of-control dogs. And Article 4 refers to the revocation of a licence and what happens thereafter. Article 5 refers to the temporary address of a keeper being provided to the State's Veterinary Officer to approve and alternative care or housing for up to 30 days in a period of 12 months, and penalties attached thereto, and also the penalties for contravening the without reasonable excuse those regulations. Article 6 refers to the name, data and telephone number on a dog's collar. Article 7 updates the existing provisions about a number of the public, a member of the public taking possession, for instance, finding a stray, but clarifies that for a dangerous dog, the person must immediately notify a police officer if they believe it to be dangerous. Article 8 refers to the worrying of livestock. The committee decided to withdraw that amendment, so there's no change to the current dogs law. That's a regulation, so there's no change to the dogs law. Article 9 deals with the procedure on seizure of dogs under Article 6, where there is no collar on a stray dog. Article 10 refers to the register of seized dogs being maintained, and Article 11 refers to a dangerous dog and the conditions not being complied with, and when a licence may be revoked. Article 12, it refers to the owner of a dangerous dog complying with the new obligations, and Article 13 outlines the penalties for offences. Article 14 rewords the reference to appeals to include convictions of failing to comply with conditions imposed on a dangerous dog, breed or type. Article 15 are the consequential amendments to the references to penalties for offences and is now included under the relevant article. Article 16 modernises the drafting for centenniers' powers to impose penalties. Article 17 is the definition of dangerous dog being removed from the 2006 customs order as it is now in the dogs law. Article 18, the amendment comes into force 7 days after they are made. And in terms of timeline, owners of dangerous dogs then have 30 days to register with the State's Veterinary Order. And the process, in terms of Article 18, the citation, the process should be complete prior to renewal of dog licences from the 1st of January 2006. And that's it, sir. Thank you. I propose the regulations.
Are the regulations seconded? Yes, sir. Thank you. Deputy Chair.
Thank you, sir. Members will recall that the panel lodged 2 sets of comment papers in September and October ahead of the 12th November debate, raising substantive concerns about the rationale, consultation and practical enforceability of the amendments and some specific articles proposed in the dog law. During the debate on the 12th of November, the principles of the proposition were adopted after my request for a reference back to the committee to Connotabs to answer our concerns, lost by a couple of votes. However, the concerns we identified were not addressed during the principles debate. For this reason, the panel exercised its right to call in the proposition for further scrutiny. I'd like to thank our officers for their support on this convoluted journey. Calling it in, of course, is about looking at the articles and if there are any that are of concern to the panel to amend. As you can see by our latest comments paper, we have recommendations but have not lodged any amendments. But I will go through and highlight some of these amended articles for the Assembly to note. The panel has always been broadly supportive of the introduction of a new registration scheme for dangerous dogs, which will strengthen public safety by ensuring the ownership is properly regulated, recorded and subject to clear conditions. We also support the creation of new restrictions, including requirements for insurance, public control and neuting, which are designed to reduce risks to people and protect animal welfare. These are outlined in detail over a number of amended and new articles, as the Chair of the Committee has informed us. The panel already welcomed the fact that the committee had responded to the concerns raised by both the panel and stakeholders by lodging an amendment to Article 6 and Article 9, which in our view represents a more balanced and proportionate approach on some areas of the amended law that would affect all dog owners. In particular, we welcome the clarification and amendment to the new Article 6, which will no longer require every dog owner to replace or update their tags by February 2026. That original proposal would have created unnecessary costs for dog owners. The revised approach is a more sensible and proportionate approach. On the new Article 9, the panel is also pleased the committee has removed the new wording on damage to agricultural land in their proposed amendments. That amendment that would have affected all dog owners was not properly consulted upon, with unclear intent, unclear definitions, and no explanation of how it would practically be enforced. The committee has committed to undertake a separate consultation-led review of livestock worrying provisions involving the farming community and animal welfare experts. I hope this is done in a timely fashion, taking lessons from this current process. After calling the proposition in, we sought written submissions from the police, the JSPCA and the State's Veterinary Officer, 3 bodies whose operational duties and expertise are central to the effective functioning of this law. Questions we asked of these stakeholders were focused on concerns raised during the 12th November States debate, the new Article 1B that lays out the criteria of what constitutes a dangerous dog, and Article 11 regarding the procedure of seizing and kenneling dogs that are dangerously out of control or are dangerous dogs. Their submissions were highly informative, and I want to formally thank all 3 for their cooperation. The State's vet provided clarity on the rationale behind a breed-specific approach outlined in new Article 1B. She explained that a behavioural or owner-focused model would address root causes more effectively, but would require a different regulatory structure and significant resources. The proposed measures are therefore a more pragmatic and quick compromise, not a definitive solution. The panel is now satisfied that sufficient assessment was done ahead of choosing the proposed direction for classification. But she confirmed that the XL Bully is not a recognised breed, but a type with wide variation and no standardised definition. The panel is therefore still concerned that this will pose challenges in enforcement and consistency. Both the police and the JSPCA confirmed unequivocally that they were not consulted in the development of the dangerous dogs provision, despite for the police holding statutory responsibilities for enforcement, kennelling and public safety, and for the JSPCA, who currently are contracted to support the collection and housing of stray dogs for up to 7 days and short-term quarantine facilities. The police told the panel they only became aware of the proposition by chance in an unrelated meeting. The JSPCA similarly stated that no formal consultation took place. This stands in direct contradiction to assurance given during our first public hearing in October that the police had been consulted. What has now been made clear is that any engagement was informal, occurred late in the process and fell far short of what should have happened when legislation imposes new enforcement powers. Members were also told at the 12th of November state sitting by the chair of the committee, it is worth mentioning that there is an agreement in place between the parishes and the JSPCA to collect and house stray dogs. This will include the dogs that fall under the category of dangerous dog. But the panel received correspondence after the debate from the JSPCA to say that it is their understanding there are no on-island facilities or resources to carry out Article 11 seizures. At our additional scrutiny hearing, the chair of the committee informed the panel that the JSPCA probably have not got the facilities for housing dangerous dogs. It was confirmed that the gap for kennel capacity was bigger than initially anticipated. So the evidence on enforcement was stark. Both the police and JSPCA confirmed that Jersey currently has no trained personnel, no suitable kennelling facilities, and no operational infrastructure to seize, hold, or assess dangerous or dangerously out of control dogs. The police recently had to fly in a UK specialist to seize a dog at public expense because Jersey has no capability to do this safely. Yet this proposition expands Article 11 by placing additional duties on the police to seize dangerous dogs, despite there being no trained staff or suitable facilities to carry out that role. The inconsistent messaging on this point in recent months is precisely why the panel considered further scrutiny essential. During the second public hearing on the 20th of November with the committee and the State's vet, the committee confirmed that earlier that week they had held discussions with the JSPCA and the police, and the committee informed the panel that the following were discussed and agreed upon between the stakeholders: that the police will develop an MOU with a UK police force to provide specialist seizure capability as the most cost-effective solution coming from their own budget. And the committee will develop an MOU with a private local provider, which has already been identified, to offer kennelling for seized dangerous dogs, including the requirement for them to be put in a 2-door kennel. These are welcome steps. However, these decisions remain at an early stage. They are not costed and they're not yet formalised. The committee also acknowledged that the law will not reduce incidents occurring inside private homes where most child fatalities occur. Unfortunately, many of the incidences in the UK since the UK Dangerous Dogs Act has occurred in people's own homes. And I want to make this point clear, as this has been raised several times in the principles debate and since in some emails that I've received from the public. Though this law is intended to reduce serious injury and fatalities to the public, it cannot prevent incidences occurring in the home. They also acknowledged that without external support from the UK, there is no operational route for managing unwanted or unclaimed dangerous dogs beyond immediate family networks. So, sir, after careful scrutiny, the panel accepts that the committee has clarified the policy intent and addressed many of the uncertainties raised during the debate on the principles, and we are happy to recommend members to support the proposition to continue into law. However, we remain firmly on the view that the amended law cannot be enforced on the day it comes into enforcement or operate as intended until Jersey has this formal MOU with a UK police force for specialist support and contracted kennelling facilities suitable for holding dangerous dogs. So the panel urges the committee to prioritise both arrangements as soon as possible. Furthermore, the proposition's financial and staffing implications no longer reflect the real costs now known to be required for enforcement. This needs to be revised so that the Assembly has an honest and transparent picture of what implementation demands. Finally, our scrutiny has highlighted a bigger issue. The legal framework governing dogs is fragmented and inconsistent across multiple laws and regulations. The panel will therefore examine this more widely in our upcoming scrutiny of the new animal welfare law. So I want to be clear, the panel recognises the need for stronger protections around dangerous dogs. We know that time is of the essence and we know the community expects action, but good law must be enforceable. It must be grounded in evidence and it must be developed through consultation with those who must enforce it. The shortcomings in this process has made scrutiny unnecessarily complex. We therefore urge the committee to now ensure that the operational infrastructure required is formally secured so that this Assembly's intentions can be delivered safely and effectively. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy. Rob Ward.
So can I just ask a question about the level of the amount of a level 2 fine? I was going to ask Solicitor General, but I imagine you probably know the answer to this yourself. I thought a level 2 fine maximum was £600, or is it £1,000? Because I've found two different answers looking through our laws. It's relevant to Article 16, and I wanted to ask something
The
about.
question for the solicitor, that is, yes.
Yes, a level 2 fine is £1,000, and the Article 13A provides that the fine should not exceed 2/5 of that level, which by my maths is 400.
I'll double check mine as well.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak on the... Yes, Deputy Rob Ward.
Thanks, sir. I just wanted to verify a few things, actually. I think there was a good point made. It's very interesting, the difference between a breed and a type. Interesting genetic argument can be had over that discussion. And I think that does cause problems when we try to classify crossbreeds, which effectively become a type because of the nature of crossbreeding and their genetic inheritance. So I think that is an issue that does need to be addressed. It was just on Article 16 that talks about the wearing of collars, that 2/5 of a level 2 fine is £400. Now, theoretically, a centenaire could stop somebody with a dog who has a collar that perhaps has a mistake on it, either doesn't have the full number, or even if they're registered and chipped and everything else, perhaps only have one piece of information if they've got it wrong, and fine them £400. I think that's a little bit, I can't think of the word, strong. Excessive might be the word. I was thinking of a cleverer word than that, but obviously I'm not clever enough to remember it today, sir. But it does seem a little bit draconian is the word I was looking for. Thank you, sir. That was an issue. I'd also like to raise again, as I did in the original debate, and suggest, and there are no, perhaps this might be for third reading, but I'll say it now anyway, because I think there probably will be linked to articles, but around the licence fee. I would like to have a discussion with the committee about whether there is something we could possibly do with the licence fee island-wide to get, they're often called dog wardens, but I'm sure there's a better and more up-to-date name, but people employed to encourage the right type of behaviour in owners, to inform owners on what they can do with their dogs, where they can go, etc., etc. Because, I mean, there are a lot of dog owners, and I'm, very much a dog owner myself, although I sometimes think he owns me. I think that's an important positive approach to these changes. So at one time we can say, look, we want to limit dangerous dogs, but in the other side, we are going to encourage you to do the right thing as a dog owner here, and there are people employed to do this. Be it about information on collars, information on breeds, information on where training can be accessed. Particularly if people take rescue dogs from abroad, because they can be a real challenge, and we end up with dogs that people can't handle. So I think that would be a really positive move forward if we could do something like that. But other than that, so I will support this with some real concerns in the back of my mind. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Deputy. Dean.
Thank you, sir. This may seem a rather strange place for the Dean to go, straying, if you excuse the pun, into unknown territory. I speak as a dog owner and a dog walker, and uniquely in this assembly, I'm the only one here who wears a dog collar. Of course, I may be making an assumption there, sir, in which case I apologise. I say that because I walk my dog every morning in Millennium Park, sir, and 3 times my dog has been attacked in Millennium Park, which is a place where dogs are supposed to be walked on leads. 3 times they were attacked by dogs that were off leads. And so I'm more concerned not so much about dangerous dogs, but about the dangerous humans who own them, sir. And I very much hope, my serious comment now, is that when the animal welfare is discussed, that there is perhaps a more holistic approach to this, which is owner-focused, and that there's better comms and training for the dangerous humans that might own such animals.
Thank you very much. Deputy Scott.
Thank you, sir. Following on from Deputy Rob Ward's comments, I just wish to remind the committee that in the debate of the principles, I mentioned discussions I'd had with them regarding these very points, that the licence was going to be doubled, the extent to which the committee could use this as an opportunity when issuing licences to provide information on to owners about some of the etiquette and training and resources that might be available to ensure that dogs are controlled better generally. And I just, again, very much request that the committee do take this forward, because the proposer of the proposition at that time just answered me ad hoc on the spot, and I really would just prefer the committee to think about these things so that when it comes to the renewal of the dog licence, there is a bit more information available to dog owners, showing a bit more something in return for that fee. So thank you, sir.
Thank you, Deputy. Conataba St Mary.
Thank you, sir. I'm picking up the comments, the valuable comments made by the Dean. I just draw attention to the Chair's comment that the scrutiny panel will be conducting a review of all matters canine, including the dogs law and the policing regulations. And I imagine that during that review we will identify very clearly the concerns of the Dean. Further, during the course of our review, there's no disagreement between the committee, the State's Vet or ourselves. There is an acknowledgement there are various gaps in law, one of which relates to registration of professional dog walkers who, certainly by reports I receive, are, quote, controlling more dogs than they can possibly so control under one person. And that is something which the review panel will look at, and I understand, and the chair of the committee may well choose to confirm this, that there are intentions on the part of either the committee or the Environment Minister to bring in regulations during the course of this term to regulate professional dog walkers. Thanks, sir.
Thank you, Conataba. Deputy Southern.
Yes, and we'll be brief. Having sat through this debate, subjected to a long list of what's wrong with it, I cannot vote for it.
Thank you, Deputy. Does anyone else want to speak on the... Yes, Deputy Coles.
Thank you, sir. So I'm just standing basically to reiterate what Deputy Southern says. I said at the beginning that I didn't think this law as drafted is going to achieve what it wants and expects, but after the scrutiny, I've not been any more reassured. I will say that I will do exactly that I did in the principle, sir, that I won't stand in its way, but I certainly won't be supporting it.
Thank you, Deputy. Does anyone else speak on the regulations? I call upon the Chair of the Committee to reply. Chair.
I thank members, sir, for their contributions, and initially in response to the chair of the panel, I appreciate the input the panel has made into the putting together of this law. And once again, sir, I emphasise the point, the difference being between the dangerous dog law, which is the regulations on importation of dangerous dogs, versus dogs out of control. And they are different, sir. And in terms of evidence, there is little evidence, if any, of any dangerous dogs being imported contrary to regulations which have been in force with customs for some couple of years. I think, so what's the effect of the approval of this law will be is to mitigate circumstances in the future. A dog's life tends to be, 10, 15 years, and we will be looking in 15 years' time, hopefully, so that we won't have a problem with these particular breeds. The issue of dangerous dogs out of control does need to be addressed separately, and I will, in response to the Council of St Mary, confirm that the committee will be keen to progress that as well, which it needs to be done. We hear probably more instances of dogs being attacked by other dogs than humans being attacked by dogs, but we have to prioritise the risks to children, and that has been outlined in the CREA presented with the original proposition. I think with regard to the communications with the police, I'm not sure if the Chair appreciates that as constables we meet our police once a month, and we do communicate with them, and I certainly did communicate with my police officer, community police officer attached to my parish on this particular subject. I think there may be a lack of communication within the police themselves, or a lack of understanding. And my meeting last week with them did outline the fact that there is a hole in the Is there a hole in the legislation? That's probably not the correct terminology, but effectively since the police lost their dog unit, lost it, it was discontinued probably as a result of the usual budget cuts which we all face. There has been some gaps, and these gaps, it needs to be considered how these gaps may be filled with regard to the accommodation of dogs, whether it be by the JSPCA, whether it be by an alternative provider. The committee will certainly work with that. In fact, already have started working, sir. With respect to the JSPCA, who I fully acknowledge are a very well established organisation, charitable organisation, provide a marvellous service for the island in terms of the prevention of cruelty to animals. If their kennelling needs to be beefed up to the satisfaction of Jersey residents, if you like, that a suitable kennel is provided, a two-door kennel, well, that needs to be spoken of. Now, whether we speak with them or an alternative provider is yet to be discussed, but I think conversations should be had and will be. The ability of the States of Jersey Police to utilise mutual aid, as I believe it's termed, is creditable and probably could be a cost-effective way of dealing with the situation should it arise. And I'm aware that in the last case, I don't believe there was a cost to the public purse. The cost was recovered by the owner of the dog involved. And that will be the case generally in terms of costs, whether they be for kennelling locally or kennelling elsewhere. Those costs in law will be borne by the owner of the dog. I'm grateful for Deputy Ward's comment regarding breeds and types, and the State's vet's comment on that was quite clear, and it's a question of resource. One could go down the type route, but it was felt that the resource needed to look at potentially 10,000 dogs in the island was just not pragmatic. And so the thought was to go down the breed line at this stage. Article 16 and excessive penalties, I think that's probably not one for me to answer, sir, but realistically there has to be a little bit of a stick somewhere to ensure compliance with the dog tag requirements. The allocation of the licence fee towards some sort of dog wardens and information for dog owners, I think possibly, sir, it would be more effective to put that funding towards an education route. If one thinks about a dog warden or dog wardens, we all know the labour costs these days can run away into lots of thousands, and I feel any funding would be better placed, and it can be placed probably more easily by the parishes through their dog licensing system, right to the owners where it needs to be understood. The Dean mentioned tax in the Millennium Park, so I can say that from the police point of view, we get more, in my parish, certainly more complaints about dog v dog attacks than dog v humans, and that's something that does cause owners great concern and can be incredibly expensive in vet bills to sort out. There is a question of animal welfare being owner-focused, and I think that's absolutely correct. And once again, going back to my comments to Deputy Ward, I think there needs to be some programme in terms of educating the owners. The There was a mention, sir, from Deputy Scott about the licence being double. That's not the case. The licence only doubles if people are late renewing it. So it is £10. It goes to 20 if for those who forget to renew it. The word etiquette, I think absolutely that you mentioned, sir, is very pertinent, and that's something I think that could be incorporated in any publicity PR work that we might put together to put out a dog licence renewal time. Training a dog is something that we can put to dog owners and suggest where they might go for training. I think the time when most people will look towards training their dog will be when they first have it, and that's the stage, of course, that habits will be understood, and dogs, bad habits, dogs don't tend to forget. So I think it's important that that is dealt with at an early stage, which of course it can be when dogs are first registered. The Constable St Mary mentioned dog walkers and regulations, and I think that will be the case, and initial discussions have taken place with the State's Veterinary Officer as to how that might come into the animal welfare law, and it was suggested there will be a licensing scheme for dog walkers attached to that law. We've yet to see the shape and form of that, sir, but I can assure him that we will be supportive of that. I regret that Deputy Southern can't support the proposed laws. I'd like to think it's going in the right direction. And likewise with Deputy Coles, we've achieved a lot, and I think we have to move on at this stage to try and make sure holes are plugged, and there will be holes because dogs are not always predictable creatures. Each offence tends to be dealt with on its own merits, and I would suggest, sir, that we will endeavour to do that in conjunction with the scrutiny panel and others. So, with that said, sir, I propose the amendments.
So can I just ask for one clarification? I did
Prepared to clarify something?
Sorry, yes.
Prepared to clarify something, Chair?
Sir, yes.
Yes.
Thank you. I think the Constable. It was just I mentioned about the fines for collars and whether there is a flexibility in that and it won't just be rigidly adhered to, because it can be a little draconian, just to check that. I think people would be reassured.
Whilst it's not for me to prejudge what a centenier or police officer might decree, sir, I would support the Deputy's views, and I think any fine would need to be proportionate to the particular offence in that case. I don't know if the Solicitor General can comment any further on that particular aspect. Thank you, sir.
Solicitor?
Well, it's up to a maximum of £400, so it's anywhere up to that. Centeniers, you would expect to be proportionate and fact-specific in the punishments they impose. It may be the Attorney General will consider giving them guidance to help them.
Deputy General, some clarification?
Yes, please. So part of my scrutiny's findings was, or recommendations was for these memorandum of understandings to be in place ahead of this law, but we didn't hear from the chair whether this was something that will be done and when this will be done, and I think I'd like clarification on these parts, because it was a very important part of our recommendation to the States Assembly.
Yes, Chair.
Thank you, sir. My understanding from a meeting with the representatives of the States of Jersey Police last week was that they have mutual aid arrangements with UK authorities, and the particular one mentioned was Hampshire. I'm not sure what written form that takes, and that can be certainly investigated and confirmed. With regard to kennelling, though, we are in discussion with the renewal of our arrangements with the JSPCA. That's the annual review of the contract we have with them, and that will form part of that review. In parallel to that, sir, we are discussing with another provider whether provision can be made. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chair. I think the appeal has been called for. Members are invited to return to their seats. And I ask the greffier to open the voting. All members have the opportunity of casting their votes.
Sorry, sir, I'm not going to say it again, but my buttons are not working. My vote would be poor.
Thank you very much. That's registered.
So similarly, it's Constable Troy here. I don't have an opportunity to. There we go.
Your vote isn't showing, Constable Troy. Do you want? Oh, it is showing now.
It's gone now. Thank you.
It's gone now. All members have the opportunity of casting their votes. I ask the greffier to close the voting. The regulations have been adopted in second reading, 41 votes for, 3 votes contre and 2 abstentions. Chair, do you propose the matter in third reading?
Yes, I do so. And in doing so, if I may, sir, I would like to thank those who've had quite a cross-section of people. Despite criticism, we have consulted with quite a large number of bodies en route, and I'm grateful, sir, for the assiduity that the panel have made, because there are various comments, we've had 3 comments from them, have picked up various points along the way. Points have been picked up in conversation, and it's shown actually the advantage of scrutiny in our democratic system. So I'm grateful to my team, particularly for working up the CREA, which I think is quite pertinent to this whole issue. Children must take priority, and it's been outlined in the various reports as to why that's the case. And I think, in my experience, it's one of the first times that CREA has been so pertinent in a debate. So I do hope that as time goes on and we talk about 10 or 11 years, that the island will be a safer place with regard to dangerous dogs. And I would conclude, sir, by proposing making the proposition in the third reading and ask for any comments on that.
Yes. Is the matter seconded in third reading? Thank you. Does anyone wish to speak on the regulations as adopted in second reading in third reading? I close the debate. Is the appel called for?
Yes, please, sir.
Appel has been called for. Members are invited to return to their seats, and I ask the greffier to open the voting. If all members have had the opportunity of casting their votes, I ask the greffier to close the voting. I can announce that the regulations have been adopted and the law consequently amended in third reading, with the votes 41 votes for, 3 votes contre and 2 abstentions. Yes.
Those members voting contre, Deputies Southern, Tadier and Andrews, and those members abstaining, Deputies Coles and Owls.
Next matter is the draft Social Security Overlapping Benefits Jersey Amendment Regulations, P79, lodged by the Minister for Social Security. The main respondent is the Chair of the Health and Social Security Scrutiny Panel. and I ask the greffier to read the citation.
Draft Social Security Law Overlapping Benefits Jersey Amendment Regulations 2000. The states make these regulations under Article 50 of the Social Security Jersey Law 1974.
Minister.
Thank you, sir. This amendment addresses the administrative issue that occurs when a person is entitled to a contributory benefit at the same time as being part of an income support claim. While it is titled Overlapping Benefits, it is not connected in any way to the recent media interest in overlaps of pensions and home carers allowance. It was lodged prior to the public interest in contributory benefits available to carers and seeks to address overlaps of contributory benefits with income support. To illustrate why this amendment is needed, I will begin with an example, and a hard copy or an email has been circulated to all members for ease of reference. And now I feel like asking members, are you sitting comfortably? Because I am about to tell you a story. This story relates to Jane and Chris, who claim income support. The income support is paid to Jane, who looks after the household bills. Jane receives a regular weekly payment on behalf of the household. Unfortunately for Chris, he breaks his leg and is signed off work for 12 weeks. He submits a claim for STIA, that's short-term incapacity allowance. Because it takes him a couple of weeks to submit the STIA certificate, he receives a backdated 2-week payment and then ongoing weekly payments for the remainder of the claim. The existence of the STIA claim causes two things to happen currently. Firstly, Jane and Chris's income support entitlement reduces for the time Chris is entitled to STIA. Secondly, an overpayment occurs because Jane was already paid income support for the same 2 weeks that Chris was paid backdated STIA. Jane's income support payments will be affected until the overpayment has been recovered, and therefore her income support payments will be lower than usual for the duration of Chris's STIA claim. While overall Chris and Jane will receive the same amount of money, there will be a shortfall of income to Jane because of how benefits are paid, which means she has less money to pay the household bills. She will have to ask Chris to make up the difference from the STIA money that has been paid separately to him. But Chris may not have realised this, and he may have already spent the STIA money because it was paid separately. So the reason why I've shared that example, which uses STIA, it illustrates the income disruption that occurs currently when a person in an income support household qualifies for and is separately paid any overlapping social security contributory benefit. The Assembly recognised this as an issue back in 2018, and an enabling power was created for the contributory benefit payments to be adjusted where income support had already been paid. I am revisiting this area of law now to provide a legal framework that will enable the Department to improve its processes, reduce overpayments, and provide consistent payments to households receiving income support. Building on the example, the existing power allows, subject to the creation of an order, the Department to adjust the backdated STIA payment due to Chris on the basis that an equivalent payment has already been paid to Jane on behalf of the household. It means that the money for the same period is only paid once, and it avoids any income support debt. It does not, however, protect Jane's household payments from reducing the remainder of Chris's STIA claim. This amendment seeks to extend the existing power so that a contributory benefit can be adjusted for the full duration of the contributory benefit claim, fully protecting the regular weekly benefit payment to the income support household. Using my earlier example, it would ensure Jane continues to have access to enough money to pay the household bills during the period that Chris is entitled to STIA. A household would not receive any more or less money as a result of these changes. Full details of how and when contributory benefit payments are withheld will be set out further in ministerial orders. The amendment also seeks to allow funds to be transferred from the Social Security Fund to the Consolidated Fund to reimburse the additional money that was paid as income support, but should have been paid as a contributory benefit. This was not included in the previous change, but is a useful addition to the law. It means that social security funds are used to cover the cost of contributory benefits, and there is no additional cost to the taxpayer who meets the cost of income support payments. In summary, these changes are required to ensure regular weekly household payments are maintained when social security benefits are paid, minimising financial disruption to income support households and enabling more efficient household and benefit administration, which can be delivered as part of the wider IT programme currently undertaken by my department. Sir, I propose the principles.
Thank you, Minister. Are the principles seconded?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Deputy Doublé.
Thank you, sir, and thank the Minister for bringing this proposition and also for the time that her and her office has spent in informing the panel about this matter. We were briefed on this and our questions were answered. And I think it was the same example given to the panel in the briefing that the Minister had since circulated, and this was very helpful to have this real life example in helping the understanding of this matter. I do have just a couple of things that I wanted to raise, and this is kind of panel adjacent, so this is really my own views as a States member, although some members of my panel may indeed share these. Looking at this proposition has made me reflect on the way that benefits are paid, and for example, the family situation that the Minister describes in her example. I think that yes, while this does address the potential budgeting issues that might arise around the payment of different types of benefits, what it doesn't do is address some of the deeper and perhaps more hidden issues, some of which were raised by the VOG task force. Now, I did look back on the VOG task force report, which said a lot about financial and economic abuse. I couldn't find anything that specifically addressed the way income support and other benefits are paid to the household rather than to individuals. I may have missed something. But what I would like to understand from the Minister when she responds is, did she consider this issue when she was looking at this to actually make income support a benefit that is paid to individuals rather than households? I'd like to understand what is her perspective on the financial or economic abuse that this system might be perpetuating and enabling, and how seriously she thinks we should be taking that, and what future work needs to be done in this respect. But aside from those comments from myself, my panel are supportive of this proposition today.
Thank you, Deputy. Deputy Kovacs.
Thank you, sir. As someone who has previously worked in income support and with the benefit systems and who has raised this issue alongside colleagues while in that department, I very much welcome this proposal. Although it's primarily a timing and administrative change, it tackles a real problem for low-income families. I will briefly explain as well how the current process mostly works to show why this change is so important. When someone in an income support household also receives a separate social security benefit like short-term incapacity allowance or others, the total can only add up to 100% of their entitlement cumulatively, not 100% for each benefit. Each benefit is managed by a different team and has different payment schedules, some weekly, some monthly, or as lump sums. When changes are made to one benefit based on a person's circumstances, this can accidentally create overpayments on the other benefit. Later, the extra money is reclaimed, which can disrupt households' budgets and withhold income that families rely on for bills and essentials. Families often do not fully understand this overlapping process and naturally assume that the money in their account is their full entitlement to use. The Minister has also just had the case example presented, which clearly illustrates the situation and highlights how overlapping payments can disrupt households' budgets, reinforcing why this change is needed. This proposal allows contributory benefits to be adjusted in advance for the full period, the overlap with income support, preventing overpayments before they occur, and ensuring that each benefit is paid correctly and predictably. It also provides for the necessary movement of funds between the related government accounts to manage these adjustments efficiently. Importantly, this change will also save time for staff handling these benefits. By considering each household's total benefits entitlement holistically from the start, there is less need for multiple calculations of overpayments, underpayments, or corrections later. This reduces the chance of errors and allows staff to better focus on supporting families rather than constantly recalculating adjustments. By removing these bureaucratic barriers, the regulations simplify the process, reduce financial stress caused by timing mismatches, and make it easier for families to plan and manage their finances. In short, this reform ensures that income support households receive reliable weekly payments, avoids unnecessary disruptions, and makes the benefit system fairer and easier to navigate. I strongly support the proposal and encourage members to do the same.
Thank you, Deputy. Does anyone else wish to speak on the principles? I call upon the Minister to reply. Minister.
Thank you, sir. Firstly, I'd like to thank the scrutiny panel. I know that they were brief. They had some good questions for my officers, and I thank them for their support. I, like Deputy Dublé, was also concerned around financial and economic abuse, and one of the things that I asked my team to do when putting this work together was to consider that, to speak to stakeholders, and to consider what was going to carry the least risk in this type of circumstance. So before deciding how to apply this change, there was some stakeholder meetings so that we could consider risks such as financial and economic abuse. And we do work very closely with stakeholders such as FREDA. My understanding is that the advice is that this would be the safer option, because actually the changes in fluctuating income could cause more risk than the other options that were proposed. But I would reiterate, we work closely with domestic abuse agencies, and also we have the 12-week concession period, that if somebody is referred by a domestic abuse agency and they are fleeing domestic abuse, we will pay out income support to that individual to help them get out of that situation. So I think that's really important to remind people as well. I thank Deputy Kovac for her support. I think nobody in this chamber knows better than Deputy Kovac how complicated some of the income support rules are, and I thank her for making that clear, quite how much of a difference this will make on an administrative basis, and be more efficient and effective, and hopefully save time and resource into the future. So, sir, I think I am ready now to call for the appel.
Appel has been called for. Members are invited to return to their seats. I ask the greffier to open the voting. If all members have the chance of casting their votes, I ask the greffier to close the voting. Announced the principles have been adopted unanimously, 45 votes for. Deputy Dublé, does your panel wish to scrutinise this matter?
No, thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Minister, do you wish to propose the regulations in second reading?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, I propose them en bloc.
Thank you very much. Are the regulations seconded in second reading? Thank you. Does anyone wish to speak upon the regulations in second reading? Those in favour kindly show.
Appel, please, sir.
The appel has been called for. Members are invited to return to their seats. And the greffier is asked to open the voting. All members have the opportunity of casting their votes. I ask the greffier to close the voting. I can announce the regulations were adopted unanimously in second reading, 46 votes for. Minister, do you propose the matter in third reading?
Yes, please, sir.
Thank you. Are the regulations seconded in third reading?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Does anyone wish to speak on the regulations in third reading? Is the appel called for?
Yes.
The appel has been called for. I invite the greffier to open the voting. If all members have had the opportunity of casting their votes, I ask the greffier to close the voting. I can announce that the regulations have been adopted unanimously in third reading, 47 votes for. The next item is P80, the draft Social Security Law Long-Term Disability Allowance Amendment Regulations, lodged by the Minister for Social Security. The main respondent is the Chair of the Health and Social Security Screening Panel, and ask the greffier to read the citation.
Draft Social Security Law Long-Term Disability Allowance Jersey Amendment Regulations 2000. The states make these regulations under Article 50 of the Social Security Jersey Law 1974.
Minister.
Thank you, sir. I'm pleased to be able to bring these regulations today, as disability and inclusion is one of my priority areas. These regulations set out the administrative framework for a new benefit to support working age people in Jersey who experience a long-term illness, injury or disability. This benefit will be called the Long-Term Disability Allowance, and when it is finalised, it will replace the Long-Term Incapacity Allowance and 3 other older benefits. I hope that members will agree with me that Jersey needs a modern disability benefit that can meet the changing needs of our community. Today, if a working age person experiences an ongoing health condition that is likely to last for more than 6 months, they can apply for LTIA. But LTIA is an old-fashioned benefit. It was introduced in 2004, but draws heavily on a system that was established in the 1970s. This includes an older way of assessing illness and disability, a method of assessment that isn't often used today. Among other things, the LTIA model isn't effective at assessing mental health conditions or chronic pain, or even the effects of cancer. LTIA is hard to administer consistently and can't be awarded for conditions that a person is born with, even if those conditions are only diagnosed later in life. The administrative changes set out today lay the foundation for a modern, long-term health condition assessment model, which will be based on loss of function. This approach is based on looking at the effects of illness and disability on a person's everyday life. It looks at the areas where you can and can't do everyday activities, as opposed to the current LTIA system, which takes a clinical approach to the impairment of your body or mind. The proposed approach is better suited to a benefit for working age people because it can consider the specific factors that affect your ability to work and participate in everyday life. This will help support a more inclusion-based approach to our benefits system. The island should be looking at what we can do to support people who want to stay in or return to work, as opposed to assuming that our responsibility stops with the payment of a benefit. The draft regulations create a legal framework that replaces long-term incapacity allowance and 3 other contributory long-term health benefits with a modernised benefit and assessment model called long-term disability allowance. It replaces the current system that awards LTIA as a percentage ranging from 5% to 100% with 3 levels of benefit. These correspond to the severity of a person's loss of function. I believe that having a benefit that pays at 3 clear levels will make the system fairer and easier for all to understand. It also creates new order-making powers. These orders will set out the assessment model of the new long-term disability allowance benefit in detail and provide for a transition process for people who currently get the benefits which are being replaced. They update the role of determining officers and specialist doctors, including streamlining the function of the independent tribunal that hears appeals against a decision on any of Jersey's health or disability benefits. This won't remove doctors from the system or weaken the powers of the independent tribunal, but will let officers make a decision on awarding the benefit based on medical evidence that already exists. Where a person does need support to get evidence to make the claim, we'll continue to use specialist doctors and clinicians to help in the assessment of the claim. The regulations also provide for the new system to be brought in by an appointed day act, so that scrutiny and states members have the time and scope to consider the new assessment model. If these regulations are approved, the new benefit will only be brought in following a further debate on an appointed day act in late 2026 or early 2027. Turning to budgets, I want to assure members that this is not a cost savings exercise. The current long-term health benefits are paid from the Social Security Fund at an annual cost of around £33 million. The new benefit will also be paid from the fund, and the intention is to maintain the budget at a similar level as to today. With the new system in place, I hope to see workers claiming the new benefit also able to remain in productive work, supporting the economy and fully participating in community life, with more positive and supportive approach to health conditions across employers and employees. The administrative structure of the proposed new benefit is also being supported by the development of systems and processes within the Employment, Social Security and Housing Department. These are being carefully coordinated with the goal to deliver the launch of the LTDA alongside broader changes within the department. I would also like to reassure members that there will be a careful transition of existing claimants from their current claim to the new system. There are about 4,300 people claiming the benefits that will be replaced. The details of the transition process will be developed over the coming months and will be available to the new Assembly during 2026. The detail of how people will be assessed under the new system will be key to ensuring equity, fairness and ease of process. The project team is already developing this detail, and this work will continue over coming months, including regular engagement with cluster groups and other interested stakeholders, as well as the Disability and Inclusion Advisory Group. I'm sure that members will be interested in the new assessment model proposals and will want to see the detail of this assessment model as soon as it is ready. So I have asked officers to ensure that the draft orders will be made available in plenty of time for the next minister to circulate draft orders for comment and for scrutiny to review before the vote on the Appointed Day Act is held. This approach lets us embed this administrative framework into the new Social Security IT system in time for us to launch the new benefit in 2027. To meet that launch in 2027, the details of those orders will be available in 2026. I think that this is a sensible way of doing things, that is both efficient and effective. It gives my department the green light to include plans in the future systems development and not waste time and money. In summary, these regulations create an administrative framework for a new, modern, long-term health benefit. They make sensible changes that will enable the new benefit to be administered in line with modern best practice. The regulations create 3 consistent levels of payment and allow officers to award benefits based on independent medical evidence, as opposed to requiring a specialist doctor to sign off every award. Sir, I propose the principles.
Thank you, Vanessa. Are the principles seconded?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Point of order.
Yes.
So I have a close family member who benefits from LTIA. Does that preclude me from taking part in this debate?
No, it doesn't, no. Deputy Dublé.
Thank you, sir. And once again, thank the Minister for bringing this and for the help that she's given to the panel in helping us understand it. And also I wanted to thank our panel officers because I think there was quite a bit of officer-to-officer communication to help us, help the officers with making a briefing note to aid the panel's deliberations. So credit to the officers as well. And as the Minister has just described, the panel are pleased that the processes around these support payments are going to be made, I think, less onerous on people that need to apply for them, and that's something that we were very pleased to hear, and that the dignity of people applying for these payments has really been considered with this proposition. So that's something that we support and we're pleased to see. And the panel are supporting this proposition today. I do have just some brief points to make. And I wanted to acknowledge, as the Minister said, the way that the project is being structured in stages, and this will allow time for thorough scrutiny. But I wanted, when the Minister sums up, could she just provide some additional clarification on why she is doing it in stages and not bringing, say, this part a bit later once more work is complete, and what would have been the kind of pros and cons of doing it that way rather than this way, just to help us understand more fully why she has done it in stages. If the Minister has any examples, I do think that with the previous proposition, it was very helpful to have that real life example, and I do wonder if the Minister has any to hand that she could outline exactly how it would be different, with the understanding, and this is another point I wanted to raise, was that islanders with disabilities are of course not a homogenous group, and there is a lot of variation in the different health conditions and disabilities that islanders experience. And we questioned on this actually as to whether there had been consultation with islanders who are experiencing disabilities. And we were given some supplementary information by the Minister and some detail around that, which was reassuring at this stage of this project, to see that those conversations had been had, and that I think points were listened to. However, just one caveat I would like to raise is that before this is fully embedded and fully in force, I do think that there needs to be some further consultation, and it should be a bit broader because, as I have just said, that islanders with disabilities are not a homogenous group. Therefore, a consultation around how exactly this is going to work might need to be a bit broader than usual, and also it should be genuinely accessible. And I know this can be difficult, and sometimes it can involve extra funding, then you might need to put into a regular consultation. So I would like the Minister to reflect on whether there is adequate funding for such a consultation, and for making sure that as broad a range of views as possible is included in this, so that we get the very best legislation that we can, legislation and policies around this as possible. So I'd be grateful if the Minister could respond to those points. Oh, sorry, I have one further one. If the Minister could also, and perhaps she might do this if she's giving some examples, are there any conditions or types of health problems or disabilities that aren't currently addressed by our current system that may now be able to be helped and addressed by the new system? I'd be grateful for that. So yes, the panel are supportive, and I look forward to hearing the Minister's responses to my comments.
Thank you, Deputy. Deputy Kovac.
Sir, I welcome this proposal brought forward by the Social Security Minister, which introduces the long-term disability allowance to replace and improve the old long-term incapacity allowance and related benefits. This reform brings as well much-needed clarity, fairness, and consistency to the system. By using a modern loss of function assessment, the public and the staff can better understand how long-term illness or disability affects everyday life and the person's ability to work, instead of relying on the confusing percentages level system currently used. The simplified 3-level benefit, the use of trained determining officers, and the single appeals tribunal will make the process easier to understand and more transparent for claimants. Importantly, this change does not reduce the overall support available, but ensures it better reflects people's real needs. I believe this will improve the process for the islanders living with long-term illness or disability and strengthen confidence in the social security system. Therefore, I encourage members to support this important reform.
Thank you, Deputy. Deputy Ferry.
Thank you, sir. And I was working in the department in 2004 when these last changes to the benefit system was made. And there's a couple of observations that I'd like to make, that some of which the Minister referred to in her speech. And we were always struggled with the way that congenital illness was dealt with differently from disease or illness which was acquired through illness or accident later in life. So I'm glad that that anomaly will be sorted out. Also, I think part of the problems that we had moving into a new benefit system was the concept of retained rights. And whilst we wouldn't want anyone to be disadvantaged by any change in the benefit system, and it's important that there is a smooth transition, what made the old benefit system so cumbersome is the fact that we allowed people to continue on certain benefits. And that became harder and harder to administer as computer systems get updated. So perhaps in the Minister's summing up, she could speak to hopefully the way that the transition will be managed without retaining the right to existing benefits. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Deputy. Does anyone else speak on the principles? Yes, Deputy Luce and Deputy Wilson. Deputy Luce.
Thank you, sir. So I applaud the Minister for bringing this work to the Assembly, but I would like to ask her a question about the way she's moving from the percentage that's currently used to 3 different grades. One question I would have is, will the top allowance, the full allowance that she's proposing, be equivalent to 100% currently, or 80% currently, or 60% currently? How would it match up, because those numbers aren't in the report? And the other one, sir, I would like to explain is currently we have a percentage system where the increments go up by 5%. And I can't see how a 3-phase system can reflect better to than the percentage system did, in as much as under the new system, if you were currently scoring, for example, 70%, you get 70% of the allowance. In the new system, you'd get the same as whether you're 70 or 80 or 90 or 100. And similarly with the other grades, it's very much of a rounding up and an approximation system that we're moving to. And I'd like the Minister to explain how that's better from the current system, where people get an allowance which is very much more conducive to the level of their disability.
Thank you, Deputy. Deputy Wilson.
Thank you, sir. Welcome the changes as proposed, but there's just some questions if I could. Effectively, I think what the Minister is proposing is a triage system, if she could clarify that in terms of the role of the determining officers as opposed to doctors. And alongside with that, what kind of decision-making framework is she proposing to introduce around that, and how will she safeguard against any bias or misunderstanding as to the need? The other thing I wonder in terms of implementation and the cost to any change in introducing a new kind of framework is what kind of modelling or forecasting has been done to assess whether or not there will be more or less people who will be eligible for this type of benefits under these new arrangements. If she could address that point as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy. Mr. Morell.
Thank you, sir. And it's, following on from Deputy Luce's questions, because those were the questions that were going through my mind. It's kind of the continuation of that line of thinking is, with all this rounding up, how will the Minister ensure that this does stay within the same budget that is being used today? Because if somebody who's on 20% is actually now going to go to 30% and someone who's on 50% goes to 70%, a lot of rounding up suggests that the overall package will get a lot larger. So I'm just keen to understand how the Minister is ensuring that this rounding exercise doesn't lead to greater levels of expenditure. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy. Deputy Tadia.
So there's a lot of ministers asking questions of fellow ministers, and one wonders what they discuss at Council of Ministers meetings, given that they don't usually ask questions in this Assembly by convention, although I know we're an open debate. The question I've got for the Minister is really looking at this from an LCIA point of view, from the beneficiary, those who are on long-term incapacity. Are they ultimately, can they expect their claims to stay the same, to go up or to go down? So is this going to be more generous? Is it less generous, or is it neutral, or will there be winners and losers, as Deputy Ferry suggests, and what consideration has been given to how that will be communicated to the claimants?
Does anyone else wish to speak on the principles? I call upon the Minister to reply. Minister.
Thank you, sir. Firstly, I will respond to Deputy Doublé. I thank the panel again for its support and for taking the time to have a full briefing on this. I know the panel had lots of questions, and it was useful for my team to meet with the panel and be able to go through what the changes mean. The question around stages, the reason is that the reason why we're taking it in stages like this is to enable my department to forward plan. This is very much a structural and enabling piece of legislation, which enables us to move forward on the basis of the change from the current percentage system to the 3 different levels of payments. Getting the Assembly's approval for that in the first instance is really important, because that's going to be an integral part of the systems that need to be developed. So we need to know that the Assembly is content with that before moving forward. So that's the reason of bringing this now, before we have the further detail. With regard to the examples that the Deputy asked for, I think the thing is actually Deputy Ferry almost answered that question, because some of those congenital illnesses and things that people are born with currently fall outside of the remit of LTIA. So that's actually a really good example of people that are currently being left behind with the current system that will be picked up with this new system, which is a more loss of function assessment. I will give the Deputy Doublé absolute assurance that, of course, we will consult with people with disabilities. This will be an inclusive process, and we will ensure that people with lived experience are consulted so that we make this benefit. We can gain all of the benefits out of making these changes that we possibly can and ensure that the benefit will be more streamlined and an easier process to follow. Sorry, I'm trying to read my own writing here. Deputy Ferre asked about retained rights. Yes, I mentioned in my speech this does replace the previously grandfathered benefits. Deputy Ferre is absolutely right. He knows from experience that we do have still people on some very old benefits. We need to work really carefully with transitional processes and procedures so that people don't end up worse off than they currently are. And I think that speaks to Deputy Tadier's point as well, that whenever we're transitioning, it's important that we transition from one process to another in a thoughtful and considered manner to ensure that people's quality of lives aren't adversely affected. Deputy Wilson spoke about officers rather than specialist doctors. At the moment, every single LTIA claimant has to see specialist doctors that are then employed by Social Security on a regular basis. We're hoping that where medical evidence does already exist, we won't need to duplicate that process. I know that that process of having to go and see the medical board is very frustrating for lots of people on the current process. So that's where we're hoping to streamline. It's not a case that officers within ESH would be making clinical decisions. We will have specialist trained officers for this particular benefit, but I do want to give Deputy Wilson assurance that it's not the case of taking doctors out of this process entirely, but where we don't have to make somebody go through a separate medical board, it's about taking out that complexity and that what can be quite a difficult process for people. Deputy Luce asked about the percentages. I think it's important to say what we're doing is the percentages aren't percentages of the benefit, but they're percentage. I can see Deputy Kovac, who knows this benefit very well, nodding. It's around the loss of faculty. That's presented currently through that. And then the 5% upgrades make for what is a very complicated benefit currently. So the aim of moving to the 3-tiered system is to reduce that complication. I'm just going through my notes here. So currently, I got asked about what the differences might be in the levels of benefit. That still is to be worked out in the work that is to come forward. But yes, that top level would be equivalent to the current 100% level. So that's where we're going to answer Deputy Luce's question. And I'm just seeing if there's any other questions that I haven't answered. But I do want to give the assurance to the Assembly that what we're voting on today is the enabling legislation so that we can improve and streamline these processes. There's a long way to go in this process, and I have undertaken that orders and the detail will be available to Assembly members so that they can be properly scrutinised when the time comes, and we use all members of this Assembly to the greatest benefit and utilise scrutiny as much as possible to ensure that we're getting the best possible outcome for our community. Thank you, sir.
Deputy Merrill, point of clarification, is it?
Thank you, sir. Yes, please, sir.
Prepared to give way for point of clarification, Minister?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Thank you. I was just wondering if the Minister could clarify the answer to my question, which was about how she would ensure that expenditure doesn't increase if there's lots of rounding up going on.
Minister.
The officers are working on the case that they will be working to similar levels to the current current benefits. There won't necessarily be lots of rounding up going on. I'm not sure whether Deputy gets the impression that there will be lots of rounding up compared to what we do already. The intention of this is to clarify and make this a much more efficient and effective process, and in time it will of course save on administration as well as stress for the people that are actually claiming this benefit as well.
Did you call for the appel?
Yes, sir.
Appel's been called for. Members are invited to return to their seats. I ask the greffier to open the voting. If all members have the opportunity of casting their votes, I ask the greffier to close the voting. Announce that the principles have been adopted unanimously, 42 votes for. Deputy Doublé, does your panel wish to scrutinise this matter?
No, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Deputy. Minister, how do you wish to propose the regulations in second reading?
En bloc, please, sir.
Thank you. Are the regulations seconded?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Does anyone wish to speak on the regulations in second reading? Those in favour of adopting the regulations kindly show. Thank you very much. The regulations are adopted in second reading. Minister, do you propose the matter in third reading?
Yes, sir.
Are the regulations seconded in third reading?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Does anyone wish to speak on the regulations as adopted in third reading? Those in favour of adopting the regulations kindly show.
Appel, please, sir.
The appel has been called for. Members are invited to return to their seats. I ask the greffier to open the vote. If all members have had the opportunity of casting their votes, I ask the greffier to close the voting. I can announce that the regulations have been adopted unanimously in third reading, 41 votes for. The next item is the draft Police Complaints and Conduct Amendment Regulations, P81, lodged by the Minister for Justice and Home Affairs. The main respondent is the Chair of the Children, Education and Home Affairs Scrutiny Panel. And I ask the greffier to read the citation.
Draft Police Complaints and Conduct Jersey Amendment Regulations 2000. The states make these regulations under Article 46A of the Data Protection Jersey Law 2018, Article 6A of the Freedom of Information Jersey Law 2011, Article 23.1 of the Police Complaints and Conduct Jersey Law 2022, and Articles 9 and 33 of the States of Jersey Police Force Law 2012.
Minister.
Thank you, sir. I will shortly be bringing forward regulations in relation to police complaints processes for both the states and honorary police forces. To support these changes, the draft Police Complaints and Conduct Jersey Amendment Regulations will remove outdated rules and amend various enactments as a consequence of the introduction of the Police Complaints and Conduct Jersey Law 2022. The regulations will set out clearer, fairer and more open procedures in line with best practice across the British Isles. This will build public confidence and bring greater consistency across both the states of Jersey and honorary police. The changes include the repeal of the Jersey Police Complaints and Discipline Jersey Law 1999, together with the necessary updates to the States of Jersey Police Force Chief Officer and Deputy Chief Officer Jersey Regulations 2017. They also provide for amendments to our data protection and freedom of information laws, ensuring that transparency and accountability remain at the heart of the system. In addition, there are a few minor but important updates to terminology and process designed to ensure consistency and clarity throughout. The focus is on resolving issues early and proportionately, with an emphasis on learning and development. Disciplinary decisions will be made fairly and objectively, recognising the unique role of police officers. Taken together, these measures represent a vital step to ensuring that our police complaint system is truly fit for purpose, fair, transparent and trusted by the public it serves. I therefore commend these regulations to the Assembly.
Thank you, Minister. Are the regulations seconded? Principles seconded. Does anyone wish to speak on the principles? Deputy Catherine Curtis and Deputy Balash. Deputy Catherine Curtis.
Thank you, sir. The Children Education and Home Affairs panel has had several briefings and many discussions on the draft police complaints and conduct amendment regulations in general and separately for the State's police force and for the honorary police. There's been a huge amount of work that's gone into this, and the panel appreciates the efforts made by the Minister and officers concerned, considering that a number of concerns were raised by stakeholders and the panel, and that all these concerns have been addressed. Therefore, the panel supports the implementation of the police complaints regulator.
Thank you, Deputy. Deputy Balash.
So I just have a question for the Minister, which is to ask why it has taken so long to bring these regulations to the States. The law in question was passed in 2022, and now here we are 3 years down the road, and nothing has until now come to the States. Why is that?
Thank you, Deputy. Does anyone else wish to speak on the principles? Minister.
Thank you, sir. And I thank the Scrutiny Chair and the panel for all of their work in relation to this. In relation to Deputy Balash's question, that is an interesting one, sir, and yes, we all have to acknowledge this has taken some significant time to bring this forward. I've actually lost count of the actual amount of drafts that have actually been through the system. It is been challenging for policy officers because this legislation, sir, has bounced backwards and forwards too many times, probably more than on a tennis court. What has subsequently happened is that there are now two pieces of legislation, one in relation to the States of Jersey Police and one in relation to the Honorary Police. And hopefully, sir, today will be the end of the journey. Thank you. My apologies, sir. Regulations to the Assembly, sir.
Those in favour kindly show. Thank you very much. The principles are adopted. Do you want to confirm, Deputy Catherine Curtis, that you do not wish to scrutinise this matter?
Yes, sir. We don't.
Thank you very much. Minister, how do you propose the regulations?
Sir, I would like to propose the regulations en bloc, please.
All right. Are the regulations seconded?
Yes, sir.
Does anyone wish to speak on the regulations in second reading? Yes, Deputy Balash.
So I have one question for the Minister, which relates to Regulation 5 of the draft regulations. These regulations are the regulations which deal with disciplinary proceedings involving either the Chief Officer or the Deputy Chief Officer of Police. And if a complaint is made against either of those officers, an investigating panel may be established, or indeed a tribunal. My question relates to paragraph 1 of Regulation 2A, limitation of civil liability. Paragraph 1 says that this regulation applies to a person who is or has been a member of an investigating panel or tribunal, B, a human resources professional who is assisting or has assisted an investigating panel or tribunal, and C, a person who is advising or has advised a tribunal under Regulation 2.5. Regulation 2.4 says that the investigating panel or tribunal, as the case may be assisted by a human resources professional for the purposes of exercising its functions. And paragraph 5 says that a person, including a legal representative, may be appointed by the chairman of the police authority or by a person nominated by the chairman of the police authority to advise the tribunal with regard to the exercise of the tribunal's functions. Now, I can understand, sir, why a person who is or has been a member of an investigating panel should not be liable in damages, and I'm now looking at paragraph 2, should not be liable in damages for an act done in the discharge of the functions of an existing panel or tribunal. What I'm not so sure about is why a human resources professional or a lawyer advising the panel or the tribunal should similarly not be liable in damages for any act done in the discharge of their functions. The consequence of that is that if a human resources professional or a lawyer advising the panel or the tribunal acts negligently, even grossly negligently, in the exercise of his functions and causes damage to any person, for example, the complainant, it will not be possible for the complainant to bring a civil action in damages for that negligence or gross negligence or breach of duty. As I say, I can understand why that exemption of liability should apply to a member of a panel. I can't understand why it should apply to an external professional who is carrying out a job for which he is being paid to advise the panel. Such a person would almost invariably have professional indemnity insurance, and I don't see why a person who is damaged by the negligence of such a person should not have any recourse in damages against him. It does not seem fair. Perhaps the Minister could give me an explanation.
Thank you, Deputy. Does anyone else wish to speak on the regulations in second reading? I call upon the Minister to reply. Minister.
Sir, I think Deputy Balash's question is probably beyond my knowledge and understanding, and I would actually therefore ask if the SG can assist me in this, sir.
Solicitor General, can you assist the Minister in relation to these particular provisions?
I don't think I can. Deputy Balash asked the question of the Minister rightly. In my view, it's a policy question. I can see what the law says, and Deputy Balash has rightly summarised what the law says, but why it says that, I'm afraid I can't assist.
All right, thank you. Deputy Scott, have you got the...
Yes, sir. Could I please ask the Solicitor General a question?
Yes.
I was just wondering, in terms of the possibility of professional human resources person being engaged by this panel, or indeed a lawyer, would not their advice be protected anyway under confidentiality or privity of contract? So I'm just trying to understand if there is that possibility of someone who's bringing a complaint actually having the right to sue an advisor to the panel itself. Thank you.
Solicitor, can you deal with that question?
Well, ordinarily, a client can sue their lawyer in negligence. I think that this is a different situation because the person who might be thinking of going against the lawyer would not be the lawyer's client, but a person who is subject to an investigating panel, which may be why it is that the indemnity is there, and it's couched in terms that it does not apply where there has been bad faith. I think that might be the distinction.
Thank you. Yes, well, we need to move then to the vote. Is the appel called for?
Yes, sir.
Members are invited to return to their seats. I invite the greffier to open the voting on the regulations in second reading.
Sorry, sir, I'm confused now because we haven't had an adequate answer to the question which Deputy Ballach has put forward here. So
No, you haven't. Well, you may have done. It's a political issue for you to determine whether you had an answer that satisfies you or not. But the minister's responded, the attorney's given a view, and you must vote on the material you have.
I don't find that very satisfactory, sir.
Well, there's nothing... We're due the vote. We're in the vote at the moment, so I shouldn't have accepted it.
To ask is it too late for me to move a reference back?
It is at the moment, yes, we're in the course of the vote. Have all members of the jury of casting their votes? Ask the greffier to close the voting. I can announce that the regulations have been adopted in second reading, 37 votes for, 2 votes contra and 6 abstentions.
Can we have these 6 and 2, please, sir?
Yes.
Those members voting contre, Deputies Ballach and Wilson, and those members abstaining, the Connétable St Lawrence, and Deputies Gardner, Moore, Wall, Andrews and Doublé.
Minister, do you propose the regulations as adopted in third reading?
Yes, please, sir.
Is the Immaculate seconded in third reading? Deputy Ballach.
So it's not very satisfactory, I think, for the Minister not to answer a question which has been put by a member in relation to regulations of this kind. And I'd like to make a request to her, which is that she adjourns the third reading of these regulations until tomorrow or the next day, in order that she can come back to the Assembly and give an answer to the question which was, in my view, legitimately raised.
Yes, dealing with the your request for a reference back, Deputy. Obviously, you can't propose reference back during a vote, but I do believe that Standing Order 83 can be proposed at any time, including in third reading. So you could propose a reference back now in third reading if you were minded to do so.
I think, sir, I would prefer to rest with my request to the Minister to adjourn the third reading until such time as she can answer the question.
Yes. Does anyone else wish to speak in third reading in relation to the regulations as adopted? Deputy Scott.
Thank you, sir. Just following up on my question of the Solicitor General, may I ask him another question?
Yes.
So when he responded to my question about the actual ability of a complainant to sue the advisor of the panel, he suggested that this might be the reason that I think, and I just wanted to confirm the interpretation, that actually the complainant doesn't have that right anyway, and that might explain why the provision had been put in there. Perhaps he could just confirm that's the interpretation. So in a sense, the wording was unnecessary and shouldn't actually make any difference.
Yeah, no, it might make a difference, because if, as it were, the action is brought against the panel or the tribunal or members of it, they might be heard to say, well, we acted in good faith upon our legal representative's advice, and therefore if you're going to sue us, the subject matter of the investigation, we will third party the lawyer and bring the lawyer into the action. So it's not beyond the bounds of possibility that a lawyer could be brought into an action by the subject matter of an investigating panel. But in terms of the relationship directly between the person investigated and the lawyer advisor, there is no privity of contract between the two of them, and doubtful in my view that there is a duty of care between lawyer and person under investigation. But by that roundabout, circuitous way I've described, it could still be possible for the lawyer to be brought into the mix.
So if I could just follow up on that. So, but the actual legislation says that the complainant, I think we're talking about the complainant, not the person under investigation, can't, that the legislation actually says that they can't bring an action against the panel members. So if on this reasoning it could be the panel members, were they to be sued, would perhaps include an advisor. That wouldn't happen, would it? Because basically they can't be sued anyway under this legislation.
Maybe a good point, perhaps. I should think about it further overnight, but I don't immediately see the answer in light of what I've just had pointed out to me, but that's quite right. A member of the investigating panel enjoys the same limitation of civil liability.
Sir, can I ask a point of order?
Yes, please do.
Can you just clarify in relation to Deputy Balash's request? Is it possible for the Minister to accept postponement, and what would be the procedure in terms of when it would be debated if it was postponed?
Well, there's no provision in standing orders to suspend third reading. There is, of course, the possibility of proposing to move the next item of business under Standing Order 85. I just want to consider one aspect of that with the greffier before I respond to what you suggested.
No.
Because then we all just go home. That's a good point. Could go.
Minister, in relation to this proposal of Deputy Balash that we only complete third reading tomorrow when you've had a chance to reflect upon the questions you've been asked. Is that something you're amenable to or not? It's not specifically provided for in standing orders.
Sir, I'm absolutely amenable. The deputy's asked me a question, I'm unable to answer it. I'm more than happy to be able to defer this until such time as I can, sir.
Yes. But if members are content to proceed in that way...
So, could I just ask?
Yes, of course, Deputy.
It seems to me that we've already started the third reading.
I follow.
Sorry?
Yes, I follow you.
Yeah, thank you. And it seems to me that Deputy Balash is within his rights just to propose Article 83 of Standing Orders to ask for a reference back, and it could come back at this sitting. So I think that would be the way to get round any issues, and that the Minister could bring it back either even tomorrow morning or afternoon, and that it could be debated with the relevant information that the Deputy is seeking.
Yes. I think in the circumstances, Deputy, it would be neater if the members agreed to simply suspend this debate and continue third reading tomorrow morning.
On what basis would we do that? So it seems like a problematic precedent to set, because we could then suspend any debate halfway through and just come back.
Well, I think it happened once before in a case where, I could be wrong about this, when I was Attorney General and I saw an error in the law and it needed to be adjourned for a correction to be made in third reading to another day. I could be wrong about that, but that's my recollection. I don't want to set a precedent, as you say, but if members, the majority of members, are content within this unusual situation, continuing third reading tomorrow and suspending the debate now, and that's what is proposed, then I think it's appropriate to take a vote on that matter and continue it tomorrow morning. So is that the proposition that's been made? Do you propose that, Deputy Balash? Well, someone's got to make one. It won't be me. It won't be me.
Certainly, I will, if invited, make the proposition that the matter be adjourned until tomorrow morning so that the Minister may give a response to the question.
Yes, so the proposal is that the debate in third reading be suspended and continued tomorrow morning. Do you second that, Minister? Yes, sir. Yes.
So can I just clarify, obviously the normal rules of debate will apply, so that there will be no second speeches, but there may be points of clarification from the Minister if she speaks early on or first.
Absolutely, yes. Members will be able to continue speaking. Deputy Miles.
Thank you, sir. It's just to clarify that if this debate today is put off until tomorrow, does that mean that P82 and P83 can also not be debated today because they're reliant on the outcome of P81? Thank you.
That's a matter for the Minister to deal with when we reach those matters. I don't know the answer to that question. So if members content, we will move to... Do you wish to speak on this matter?
Yeah, thank you, sir. I hate to be a pedant, but we do have standing orders. And
yes,
it would
absolutely.
be really good to know which standing order this is, because we look to the future, and if we don't, so the rules is the rules, and if we're not going to live by them, I'm sorry, but this Assembly has standing orders. It's a fundamental point of our democratic process. As soon as we lose those standing orders and we don't abide by them, if you don't like them, change them, then we don't have a debating chamber, in my humble opinion, sir. There you go.
That is correct. But under Standing Order 167, the bailiff shall decide any question of order or procedure not provided for in standing orders, and that appears to have risen. And both the proposer and indeed the mover of the proposition are content with this procedural solution to a difficulty that's arisen, and accordingly I've ruled that it's a proper solution in the circumstances. Does anyone else wish to speak on this matter before we move to a vote?
So can I ask a further point of order?
Yes.
Obviously, everything you've said is entirely sensible, but I would question that.
You don't always say that to me.
But as a good lawyer, say you know that there are always two sides that can be equally plausible, and often three. So it seems to me that this situation is provided for in standing orders, and we have a scenario where a states member wishes to have further information from a minister, and time again we've had many references back to seek new information, and that allows the proposition to come back. I don't know if the problem here is that it says that the proposition needs to be brought back at a future meeting, and whether the definition of future meeting means a future sitting or if it can include the current sitting. But it seems to me there is a legitimate mechanism that's tried and tested, and Deputy Balash simply needs to ask the Minister to come back at a future meeting, as I said, which could be tomorrow, rather than put us in a position where we can suspend now in future any debate that we don't like and ask for it to come back at any future time. Is it to save face for I'm not sure what's going on here, that's all I'm asking, sir.
Well, I think that the Minister can speak for herself, but presumably the wish on both sides is that this matter can be resolved quickly, and the Assembly can resume its business and resolve this matter and adopt these regulations, or not, as the case may be. But all members who've expressed a wish to speak on this matter have done so. So is the appel called for, Deputy Balash?
May I just briefly sum up to my proposition, sir? And the purpose of doing that is firstly to say to Deputy Tadier that I don't think a future meeting tomorrow is a future meeting, and that I would like to enable the Minister to deal with these matters during this meeting. But secondly, I wonder if I could ask during the adjournment for the Solicitor General to consider whether the provisions of the paragraphs at the moment would prevent the panel itself from bringing an action against its advisor for negligent advice. I move the proposition.
The appel, I presume, is called for. So the proposition, members, is that we suspend any further debate on this matter in third reading and resume tomorrow, when the Minister may give clarification in relation to the matter raised. I ask the greffier to open the voting. All members the opportunity of casting their votes. I ask the greffier to close the voting. The proposition has been adopted. 42 votes for, 1 votes contra, and 2 abstentions.
Deputy Rob Ward voted contra.
Now, Minister, does it have any knock-on effect on P82, or are we able to take P82?
Sir, my view would be that this is the initial part of the journey in relation to the other pieces of legislation, so they would be better to follow in the way that they are already streamlined. So this law comes first, then there's the police one, then the honorary police one, and then the final enabling. law. So it's set out in a specific journey, sir.
All right. In that case, Minister, it's you again, if members are content to proceed in this way, with the draft marriage and civil partnership dissolution and separation law. If members are content to proceed in that way, then the next item is the draft marriage and civil partnership dissolution and separation Jersey law, lodged by the same minister. The main respondent is the chair of the Children Education and Home Affairs Screening Panel, and ask the greffier to read the citation.
Draft Marriage and Civil Partnership Dissolution and Separation Jersey Law 2000, a law to empower the Royal Court to make orders dissolving marriages, formerly referred to as a decree of divorce, and orders dissolving civil partnerships, to make separation orders and to make provision for incidental matters. The States, subject to the sanction of His Most Excellent Majesty and Council, have adopted the following law.
Minister.
Sir, I'm pleased to bring forward the draft Marriage and Civil Partnership Dissolution and Separation Jersey Law, which represents an important and overdue reform of our family law framework. The draft law modernises Jersey's approach to legally ending a marriage and a civil partnership by introducing a single, unified legal framework for the dissolution of both of these institutions. It repeals outdated legislation, the Matrimonial Causes Jersey Law 1949 and parts of the Civil Partnership Jersey Law 2012, and replaces fault-based divorce with a modern no-fault dissolution system. Marriage and civil partnership are built on commitment and hope, but we know that not all relationships endure. When they break down, the law should not make the process harder, more adversarial, or more painful than it needs to be. Our current framework can do exactly that. It forces couples into a system that often amplifies conflict and prolongs distress. The draft law introduces no-fault dissolution, removes unnecessary barriers to legally ending a marriage or civil partnership, and creates a system that is fair and focused on reducing conflict. It is about dignity, kindness, and aligning Jersey with the best practice seen in other jurisdictions. Why reform is needed? Sir, Jersey's current divorce law dates back to 1949, and although some amendments have been made, it is a product of its time. It forces couples to assign blame, such as adultery or unreasonable behaviour, or to endure years of separation before they can move on with their lives. Jersey's civil partnership law mirrors most of these provisions for ending a civil partnership. Furthermore, couples are, except in extremely limited circumstances, prohibited from seeking a divorce or dissolution within the first 3 years of their union. Imagine two people who have simply grown apart. They agree their relationship has ended, yet under the current law, they must wait at least 3 years before they can instigate divorce proceedings and then either accuse the other of wrongdoing or endure a further period of separation. That is not just. It is a system that fosters bitterness where there could be understanding. This draft legislation aims to address these issues by introducing several key reforms, which align to principle with those approved by this Assembly in P77/2015. The reforms include no-fault dissolution. Couples will be able to apply for dissolution without assigning blame. Applicants will simply declare that they no longer wish to remain in their marriage or civil partnership with no requirement to reasons. Immediate access applications for dissolution can be made at any time after the marriage or civil partnership begins, removing the need for years of waiting in limbo. Removal of the ability to contest. An application for dissolution can no longer be contested when a relationship has ended. The law should not trap people in it or allow one party to prolong the process. Alternative dispute resolution. The court will have the power to refer couples to services that help resolve practical issues, such as childcare and finances, and in some cases, to explore reconciliation before or during litigation. While the process of ending a marriage or civil partnership is being simplified, matters involving children and finances often remain complex. To reduce conflict and avoid unnecessary court time, the court and legal practitioners will continue to encourage the use of alternative dispute resolution wherever possible. Standard terminology. The draft law recognises that Jersey's legislation no longer distinguishes between marriage and civil partnership. Separate legislation and terminology for dissolving these relationships is therefore unnecessary. Both are now addressed within a single legal framework using the term dissolution to describe the legal ending of a marriage or civil partnership. The law retains the existing two-stage process but updates the terminology to conditional order and final order, replacing decree nisi and decree absolute. This change applies to both marriage and civil partnership, promoting equality and clarity. Future-proofing. The law anticipates future reforms, including pension sharing, ensuring that Jersey's framework remains modern, fair and adaptable. Naturally, in everyday language, I expect that people will continue to use the term divorce when referring to the end of a marriage, and this remains entirely appropriate. Sir, I am pleased that this draft law further supports the work of the Violence Against Women and Girls Task Force. It removes the requirement for applicants to disclose their reasons for seeking a dissolution and eliminates the ability to contest an application, potentially preventing an abusive partner from prolonging proceedings and causing additional trauma. Furthermore, the court is given discretion to shorten the waiting period before a dissolution is finalised in appropriate cases, particularly where there is a need to protect and support vulnerable individuals. I know some members may have concerns, and I want to address these directly. Firstly, does this legislation make divorce too easy? The answer to that is no. Ending a marriage or civil partnership is never easy. It is a profound decision. This draft law does not change that. What it does change is the unnecessary cruelty of forcing people to assign blame and wait years before they can move on. While the process of ending a marriage or civil partnership is being simplified, issues relating to finances and children will still need to be resolved. These are often the most complex and time-consuming parts of the process. Secondly, what about the sanctity of marriage? The sanctity of marriage is upheld by choices people make, not by legal obstacles. A law that traps people in unhappy relationships does not protect marriage or its values. It undermines them. Thirdly, will this harm children? Quite the opposite. By reducing conflict, encouraging the use of alternative dispute resolution and removing blame, this law aims to protect children from the worst effects of separation. The draft law has been developed following a public consultation and engagement with legal professionals and family law practitioners. Similarly, reforms were introduced in England and Wales from 2022, while Guernsey has also recently implemented comparable reforms. Jersey should not lag behind. Our law must reflect the realities of our modern relationships and uphold the principles of fairness and dignity. If adopted, this law will require updates to court procedures, and guidance for practitioners before it can commence. We will also need to ensure that public information is made available so that couples understand their rights and responsibilities. I've also asked officers to continue the work on regulations which will enable pensions to be shared when a marriage or civil partnership is dissolved. This is only right and fair. This law is about modernising our law, but more than that, it's about modernising an approach to human relationships. It is about reducing harm, promoting dignity, and protecting children. This draft law meets that purpose. Sir, I propose the principles of the draft marriage and civil partnership law, dissolution and separation, Jersey law to Assembly and urge members to support it.
Thank you, Minister. Are the principles seconded? Deputy Howard.
Thank you, sir. I would just like to thank the Minister for bringing this legislation forward. Individuals have been placed in very difficult situations and they have come to me to express that. And I have asked the Minister before this date, please can she bring it forward? And I'd just like to commend it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Deputy. Deputy Catherine Curtis.
Thank you, sir. While the Children, Education and Home Affairs Scrutiny Panel supports this law and wishes to see no-fault divorce in place as soon as possible, just a few days ago, after we had published our supportive comments, we received notification from one of the legal bodies consulted in respect of this law, and they asked for more time to consider and collate comments on the latest draft of the law. They raised specific concerns about various articles and provisions, and having discussed this with the Minister and the panel members, we will have to take some time to consider the concerns raised. Therefore, while supporting the principles, the panel will have no option but to call this in.
Thank you, Deputy. Does anyone else wish to speak on the principles? Deputy Balash.
So I rise only really to congratulate the Minister on bringing forward a piece of legislation which is long overdue and which ought to be welcomed by all civilised people. Many judges will have experienced during their careers the unhappy prospect of a contested divorce between two people who seek only to destroy each other. Defended divorces really ought to be a thing of the past. And I, for my part, am very supportive of what the Minister is doing under this law. I just would add one other point on the question of pensions, because I don't think that members should be under the impression that courts cannot deal with issues arising from pensions. It's true that it's not possible to make orders dividing up a pension between different people, but pensions are assets, and assets are regularly taken into account by courts when they deal with the division of assets between husband and wife, or now, I suppose, between civil partners. I'm very supportive of the bill.
Thank you, Deputy. Deputy Doublé.
Thank you, sir. I understand that the panel are calling this in, so I'll keep this brief, but I wanted to thank the Minister for continuing the work on this and for bringing it forwards. And it is a huge step forwards for fairness across the board for anybody who needs to seek a divorce or dissolution of a civil partnership. And I wanted to mention how this is in the best interests of children to have a no-fault divorce process, because the evidence shows that minimal conflict between parents after separation is correlated with better outcomes for children. And this, I think, will help towards that. It will also help hugely towards gender equality, because I think what we can note from the Vorg report is that post-separation abuse is a problem, not just in Jersey, but beyond. And other jurisdictions have dealt with this and helped to minimise the incidences of post-separation divorce, which is often facilitated by the use of legal processes. So I think many of these issues will be helped by the introduction of this new legislation, and I hope that it can be progressed as quickly as possible.
Thank you, Deputy. Does anyone else wish to speak on the principles? Minister.
Thank you, sir. Yes, I was made aware fairly late that somebody had gone to the panel in relation to some concerns. This legislation has been consulted on widely. There's been a number of matters discussed throughout of 2025, but fully accepting that somebody has come and raised a couple of concerns. But I wanted to ensure that this, the first reading of this law came to the Assembly, sir, at this time, mostly due to the fact that we obviously are going to be going into the budget in the next sitting, and there is a lot of law on the table coming into 2026. So I felt that this was the most sensible thing to do, was to get the principles accepted by this Assembly. And I thank the contribution from both Deputy Dublé, which I 110% agree with in relation to the protection and welfare of children, and that of Deputy Balash. It is important that we move forward and modernise this type of legislation. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Minister. Is the appel called for?
Yes, please, sir.
The appel has been called for. Members are invited to return to their seats. And I ask the greffier to open the voting on the principles. All members have the opportunity of casting their votes. I ask the greffier to close the voting. Announce that the principles have been adopted unanimously, 46 votes for. Now, Deputy Catherine Curtis, I understand that you want to scrutinise this matter.
Yes, sir.
When do you want it to come back?
I suggest the 3rd of February sitting, sir, to allow enough time.
Yes, 3rd of February. Thank you very much. Now, the next matter is the trademarks Jersey law lodged by the Minister for External Relations. The main respondent is the Chair of the Economic and International Affairs Scrutiny Panel. I ask the greffier to read the citation.
So before that happens, I'd just like to apologise, but I have to leave now the Assembly early because there's GCSE options evening, and it's very important I attend.
Thank you very much, Deputy. The greffier will read the citation.
Draft Trademarks, Jersey Law 2000, a law to make provision for registered trademarks to give effect to the protocol relating to the Madrid Agreement concerning the international registration of marks, adopted at Madrid on the 27th of June 1989, and to certain provisions of the Paris Convention for the Protection of Industrial Property of the 20th of March 1883, as revised and amended, and for connected purposes. The States, subject to the sanction of His Most Excellent Majesty and Council, have adopted the following law.
Deputy Scott.
Thank you, sir. Today I'm requesting members to adopt the Draft Trademarks Jersey Law 2002-. If adopted, it will mark a turning point in Jersey's approach to trademark application and registration. It also will deliver an important priority of the Common Strategic Policy to support the island's economic well-being by reducing red tape, enhancing opportunities for businesses, and strengthening Jersey's international reputation. This Assembly acknowledged the importance of updating the island's intellectual property legislation and registry infrastructure last year, when it adopted the Draft Patents Law and Registered Designs Law Jersey Amendment Regulations 2002-. At the time, I informed the Assembly a substantial amount of draft intellectual property legislation would be brought before the end of this term. The Draft Trademarks Jersey Law is the largest and most technical piece of draft legislation in this programme because it completely overhauls Jersey's existing approach to trademark application and protection. I would like to thank the members and officers of the Economic and International Affairs Scrutiny Panel, I notice the chairs are yawning already, for their helpful comments on and support for the draft law, notwithstanding its heftiness. Sir, we encounter trademarks daily. For example, when we see the words Marks and Spencer in King Street. However, a trademark can also be an image, such as an apple silhouette with a bite taken out of it. It can be a colour or a shape, such as the precise shade of purple used on certain chocolate packaging, or the form of the bottle of a well-known American soft drink. It can even be a sound, such as the instantly recognisable Intel bong, the 5-note melody that plays when we switch on our computers. Trademarks play an important role in brand recognition. In an economy increasingly driven by innovation, trademarks and intellectual property rights more generally are key drivers for economic growth. A registered trademark gives the owner exclusive rights to protect their product against imitation. Their importance has increased dramatically with the expansion of global markets online. It is therefore essential that Jersey keeps its intellectual property legislation up to date and fit for purpose. This is not just my view and the government's view. Respondents in 2 rounds of public consultation all agreed the need to modernise Jersey's framework for trademark registration and protection. This was identified as a much needed step forward to improve Jersey's business environment, both for local and foreign businesses, and to help promote the island as an international business and financial centre. The work also aligns with the recommendations of the Jersey Innovation Review that was conducted by the eminent economist Tara Allas 10 years ago. Amongst other things, she recommended that government should engage with industry to identify any constraints to innovation resulting from the existing system of intellectual property protection and take measures to address any outstanding issues. The draft law plays an important role in overcoming these constraints. So it has 2 main objectives. 1, it introduces a system of trademark application and registration that works for local people and businesses and makes obtaining trademark protection in the island more accessible, particularly for small businesses that primarily trade within Jersey. 2, it enables Jersey to seek participation in the protocol relating to the Madrid Agreement concerning the international registration of marks, making Jersey a more attractive place to do business and helping to deliver wider economic benefits and opportunities for the island. So let me expand on these. The draft law seeks to establish a primary trademark registry. As members may recall, Jersey currently has a so-called secondary system of trademark registration under the Trademarks Jersey Law 2000, which this draft law would replace. The 2000 law provides for re-registration in a Jersey sub-register, currently held by the Judicial Greffier, of trademarks first registered in the UK. This requirement can be cumbersome and costly for local businesses. Stakeholders see it as a significant obstacle to seeking and obtaining trademark protection in the island. To explain the obstacle in a little more detail, imagine being the owner of a new startup in Jersey. In order to establish and protect your brand, you could reasonably wish your business name or logo to be registered as a trademark in Jersey. However, to do this, you would first need to go to the UK Intellectual Property Office to register your trademark in the UK, irrespective of whether you plan to trade in the UK at any time, adding unnecessary cost and red tape to your trading costs. This draft law, if adopted by members, will replace Jersey's current system of secondary trademark registration with a modern and familiar system of primary trademark registration. This will enable an application for trademark registration to be made directly with Jersey's new Intellectual Property Office, without the need for a prior UK registration, reducing the administration burden and costs for local businesses and making Jersey a more attractive place in which to do business. The introduction of a system of primary registration also affirms Jersey's constitutional independence and autonomy as a jurisdiction, separate from the UK, with its own intellectual property laws and registry. The second objective is to enable Jersey's participation in a well-known international trademark registration system that would further reduce red tape while demonstrating the island's long-standing commitment to the development and implementation of international standards. This would help the island demonstrate that it is a jurisdiction that takes IP rights seriously. Members may know there are numerous international treaties that deal with various types of intellectual property, creating consistent standards and cooperation amongst members globally to protect and help enforce intellectual property rights across borders. One such treaty is the Madrid Protocol, which currently covers 131 countries. Its principal purpose is to simplify the registration process of trademarks in participating countries. The Madrid system is overseen by the World Intellectual Property Organization. By filing a single application through it, paying a single set of fees, trademark protection can be obtained in some or all of the jurisdictions that are party to the agreement. This replaces the need to file separate applications in each of the countries where protection is sought. The Madrid Protocol therefore offers a convenient and cost-effective one-stop shop solution for registering and managing trademarks globally. Participation therefore can benefit local businesses looking to establish and protect their brand abroad and create a more attractive environment in Jersey for inward investment in innovative projects. During the consultation phase, stakeholders widely acknowledged joining the Madrid Protocol as a key aspect of trademark modernisation, with some stakeholders describing it as an absolute must. By introducing a system of primary trademark registration, the draft law enables Jersey to be recognised as a distinct jurisdiction by the World Intellectual Property Organization, allowing Jersey to seek inclusion in this important international trademark treaty. If members adopt this proposition, I will work with the Minister for External Relations to set in train the process for Jersey to join the Madrid Protocol. In addition to the Madrid Protocol, the draft law also puts the foundations in place for Jersey to seek extension of the Nice Agreement. This international agreement provides a consistent international approach to the classification of goods and services for the purposes of trademark registration. Before I wrap up this speech, I believe it worth bringing two related matters to members' attention. First, I have mentioned the current administration of Jersey's trademark re-registration system by the Judicial Greffe, with the Judicial Greffier being the registrar to whom an application for registration must be made. The sub-registration system simply requires the Judicial Greffier to check a few formalities. However, the introduction of a system of primary trademark registration will result in a substantially expanded role for the registrar. In particular, a requirement to conduct a substantive examination of each application under the draft law. This is not within the resources of the Judicial Greffier. There also are reasons why a registrar who is independent from the court structure would be more desirable for the role of an intellectual property registrar going forward. I therefore have lodged the draft Registrar of Intellectual Property Jersey law for members' consideration and thank them for agreeing to it to be debated following the debate of this law. Its purpose is to re-establish the office of the Registrar on Jersey's IP Register under the umbrella of Jersey's Independent Financial Services Commission, which already holds and maintains various other registers in Jersey. The two pieces of legislation go hand in hand. I also wish to reassure members that the rights of existing trademark owners will not be prejudiced if this draft law is adopted. To ensure they remain in full force and effect, the draft law contains a bespoke and comprehensive set of transitional provisions, including the transfer of local rights onto the new Intellectual Property Register. Other than that, the draft law is broadly modelled on the internationally high regarded and well understood UK Trademarks Act 1994, suitably tailored to ensure it is appropriate for Jersey and its economy. In closing my speech, I wish to emphasise that the draft law and modernised intellectual property protection more generally fully align with the ambitions in Jersey's Future Economy programme to support the right conditions for sustainable economic growth. If we are serious about Jersey becoming a technologically advanced and high-performing small island economy by 2040, it is critical that we invest in our intellectual property legislation and registry infrastructure and acknowledge intellectual property protection as a cornerstone of innovation. In conclusion, the proposals in this draft law have been extensively consulted on and have received wide support. They deliver on the States Assembly's commitment to reduce red tape, enhance opportunities for business, and strengthen Jersey's international reputation. They help create the right conditions for entrepreneurial activity and dynamic businesses to grow and improve productivity in the economy. This ultimately makes our island a more attractive place in which to live, work, invest, and thrive. I therefore commend this draft law to members and hope they give this proposition their full support. Sir, I move the principles of this draft law.
Thank you, Assistant Minister. Are the principles seconded?
Yes, sir.
Does anyone wish to speak on the principles? Yes, Deputy Morell.
Thank you, sir. I just want to thank the Assistant Minister for External Relations, Deputy Scott, for lodging this law and for working on this law over the past couple of years. There is no doubt I wholeheartedly agree with the kind of summary in her speech about the importance of this to Jersey's economic development. And it may strike many members as surprising that Jersey doesn't have its own primary trademark registry. And to date, we have had to be working through the UK registry. This in itself will give companies, particularly internationally focused companies, confidence to bring their business here and know that they can operate in this domain with the full authority of any other primary registry. As well as that, there is, and I know many local Jersey businesses do trademark their own aspects of their business, and to be able to do so again locally without having to go to the UK in order to register a trademark which you only ever intend on using in Jersey makes a lot of sense for all island businesses. So I do urge members to support this law because it's a really important step in that development of our economy. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Deputy. Deputy Taddeo.
Thank you, sir. I just want to rise, first of all, to thank the Minister and Assistant Minister in particular for proposing this. It's something which the Department has engaged with my panel on for a number of months now. So our panel has reviewed this. We had briefings on the 10th of April in 2024, so not this year, but last year, and the 5th of November more recently. But we also did question the Minister and Assistant Minister in hearings in April 24 and then more recently in September this year. So it has been something that that's been worked on for quite a while. And the draft law, as we understand it, replaces the current re-registration system with a primary trademark registration system. So this would allow modernisation to allow holders of rights to register directly in Jersey rather than needing to go through the UK. The draft law is based on the UK Trademark Act 1994 and aligns Jersey with global standards, and inclusion will simplify international registration for local businesses. We understand it will attract potentially foreign registrations and allow Jersey to receive a share of these fees when selected under the Madrid Protocol. We did ask the Assistant Minister in particular whether she thought this might be a revenue stream for Jersey, and I think the answer was yes. It may be something that she wishes to add to in her summing up about what, if she feels able to give an indication of how the fees in future will be allocated, what percentages will be allocated to Jersey and how they will be recouped and how that compares to the current system. Something did pique my interest in the comments of the Assistant Minister just now, when she said that there were other good reasons why we might wish to move away from using the judicial greffe as the registry, and there might be good reasons why you don't want the court doing that. Maybe she could elaborate for ourselves and other members in that, because there may be a school of thought, both in this assembly and more widely, that if the system isn't broke, why fix it? Of course, that isn't the position that we would take as a panel. We understand that an online system in a globalised world where countries can select all of the jurisdictions in which they wish to have their trademarks registered is both very practical but also necessary. I was wondering whether she would also speak to the point that companies, currently when they register in the UK, will up until now be automatically registered in Jersey. Is she anticipating that as those companies, those trademarks, those holders of trademarks, as they need to renew their UK registries in future, does she anticipate that there will be sufficient awareness from those trademark holders to know about the new system, given that they could be re-registering very soon, or it may be in a many numbers of years? And does she believe that Jersey will always feature as a tick box for those who are re-registering their brands in bigger countries? Will they? How can we ensure that they will automatically be ticking the box for Jersey and making sure that Jersey gets its share of any revenue in that respect? Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy. Does anyone else wish to speak on the principles? Deputy Wilson.
Thank you, sir. I echo, as a member of the EIA panel, what the Chair has just said, but I would just like to highlight some further assurances, perhaps, maybe, that the Assistant Minister might address in her summing up. And that really is whether or not this might usefully sort of put Jersey's pathway to the CPTPP on a firmer footing, and if she would be happy to give some consideration as to the timeline that she has in mind, if so. The other thing is around what assurances she can give us in relation to fees for registration and renewal, that they will be proportionate and won't deter small businesses. And to make sure that the IP system requires and secures the necessary expertise within the registry to make sure that application is as easy and suitable for and fit for purpose. I think the other thing is to just ask the Assistant Minister whether or not if there is any future divergence, whether political or regulatory, that the system will be geared up for that, particularly in the context of the development of artificial intelligence branding, digital assets, and cross-platform digital products, which will all be areas that will eventually come under the trademark platform. Quite a lot there, and as she's already said, this is quite a detailed, complex piece of legislation, but if she could address those principles or those issues and assurances, that would be helpful as part of the principles.
Thank you, Deputy. Does anyone else wish to speak on the principles? Assistant Minister.
Thank you, sir, and I thank members for their contributions and comments on the proposition. In particular, I'd like to thank the Minister for Sustainable Economic Development and the members of the Economic and International Affairs panel for their support. So moving on to some of the questions that have been asked during the in the most recent few last minutes, how fees are allocated and recouped. I mean, there's an Altenberg level, so there's those that are actually charged by the Commission for handling the applications generally, and that is a matter for them, but the law requires, well, the registrar's law that I have yet to bring will require them to consult with the Minister for Sustainable Economic Development. But then there's another aspect to this law, which is the participation in the Madrid Protocol. So basically, that is participation in almost like a kind of joint registry arrangement. And the way in which fees get allocated is very much to do with the origin of the application. I've actually was provided with a copy of the Madrid the protocol review, the annual review, and I'll refer to that when responding to Deputy Tadier's question. Or did I? I think there was another. No, I'll do that now. So basically, it's quite interesting because again, I'm afraid the fee bit comes into two kind of questions in terms of how many applications people are actually getting when somebody makes an application under the international system. They get a load of boxes. Which jurisdictions do you want this trademark to be protected in? And Jersey can simply get fee income as a result of somebody ticking that box. And it's actually been quite profitable for Guernsey, who already has been doing this. I think last year it was about 90,000, just by virtue of people ticking these boxes. And then in terms of participation in the treaty, generally in terms of any contributions people themselves have to make, again, that really looks at where the origin of the application comes, and that's relatively minor. So unfortunately, Guernsey doesn't have many people bringing in new trademarks to be internationally recognised, and it would be great if Jersey did, because that would be the sign of a very ambitious and successful business, and I hope that we do have more of those. Deputy Tadier, the chair of the Economic and International Affairs Panel, also asked me to expand a bit on the good reasons why the registry might, at this stage, move away from the administration of the judicial greffier. Again, it was something I was going to expand on in the next law. I think at this point I should say that the work of the judicial greffier has, there's been no criticism of it, it's been historic, but actually constitutionally there are some concerns about having given that intellectual property rights may be challenged in court, there's a bit of a conflict there about having the judicial greffier administer this register as well. So having an independent registrar, and it's contemplated that this will be the same registrar as the Registrar of Companies with a lot of experience. A new software system will need to be operated and indeed purchased. That's been looked into and is covered under the allocation in the previous budget. Companies registered in UK automatically registered. Yes, sorry, that's not... Okay, so there are two ways in which trademarks in the UK might actually extend to Jersey. One is that they are registered with the UK's Intellectual Property Office in the first place. They would need to be, and not under the Madrid Treaty, they would need to be registered in the sub-register in Jersey to have effect. The other, and it is the transitional provisions will transfer those over. Then you have the possibility that people have ticked these boxes under the Madrid Protocol to have their trademark protected in the UK. At the moment, because of the arrangements that we have, these have effect without registration, which isn't ideal. And at the moment, what we contemplate, having spoken with the World Intellectual Property Office, is actually that those will nevertheless be transferred under the transitional provisions, and in fact perhaps can even be registered here so that people can actually see them. So rather than have to go to the UK. So I think, and then there was the, Deputy Wilson asked about the and I never am good with this acronym, but basically we're talking about the Transatlantic Treaty. That's something that's in the hands of the Minister for Economic Relations at the moment. The whole process of in which treaty extensions will be debated by the states is currently being looked at, and on the bit further in furtherance of the proposition that the consent or ratification of the Jersey should be of the States Assembly should be obtained in certain circumstances in certain ways. I believe that's also been discussed with Deputy Balash. So there will be a process, there is a process. Fee setting I've mentioned, I've gone through, and the IT system, and then there was this rather interesting question about future diversions in terms of the development of AI. I mean, I will when I was a little, I should have perhaps asked the deputy a bit more to expand on what her kind of like perception of divergence is in the context of intellectual property, because copyright and trademarks and these things, we're talking about the trademarks in terms of brand recognition. Things like patents and registered designs, which are things that I tend to associate more with, the operations of artificial intelligence, will still be dealt with in this sub-register. There still are rights that people can actually register, and the whole process registering patents and registered designs is a lot more complicated and would take a lot of resourcing on our part, which is why we continue to are going to continue with sub-registers in the immediate, for the time being. So I thank members for all their contributions. I also wish to thank the government officers who have worked on the draft law, and as well as reiterating my thanks to the Economic and International Affairs panel for their support, not only for the draft law and subsequent treaty extension, but also for the wider IP modernisation programme. So, sir, with that, I ask the Assembly to support the principles. Thank you.
Is the appel called for?
Call for the appel.
The appel has been called for. Members are invited to return to their seats. I ask the greffier to open the voting. All members have the chance to cast their votes. I ask the greffier to close the voting. And the principles have been adopted unanimously, 41 votes for. Deputy Taddy, can you confirm that your panel do not wish to scrutinise the matter?
Thank you. We've done the scrutiny already.
Yes, thank you very much. Assistant Minister, how do you propose the articles in second reading?
En bloc, sir, please.
Do you want to speak to the articles?
So just to say that the draft law is broadly modelled on the UK Trademarks Act, which is internationally high regarded. It's also a very technical piece of legislation. So the articles do depend on each other, and so are very much need to be looked at all together. So I would appreciate the support for the at this stage too. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Are the articles seconded?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Does any member speak on the articles in second reading? Thank you. Those in favour kindly show. Thank you very much. The articles are adopted in second reading. Mr. Minister, do you propose the matter in third reading?
Yes, I do, sir.
Are the articles as adopted seconded in third reading?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Does any member speak on the articles as adopted in third reading? Those in favour kindly show. The appel has been called for. Members are asked to return to their seats, and the greffier is asked to open the voting. All members have the opportunity of casting their votes. I ask the greffier to close the voting. And the law has been adopted unanimously. 43 votes for. The next item is the draft Registrar of Intellectual Property Law, lodged by the Minister for External Relations. The main respondent is the Chair of the Economic and International Affairs Panel. I ask the greffier to read the citation.
Draft Registrar of Intellectual Property, Jersey Law 2000, a law to provide for the appointment of the Registrar of Intellectual Property and the establishment of the Jersey Intellectual Property Register. The States, subject to the sanction of His Most Excellent Majesty and Council, have adopted the following law.
Deputy Scott.
Thank you, sir. So, as earlier mentioned, the law's primary purpose is to establish a new registry of intellectual property rights and the Office of Registrar of Intellectual Property Rights for Jersey. Its main purpose would be to maintain not just the new primary system of trademark registration that has just been approved by the States Assembly in the form of P86, but also Jersey's modernised secondary patents and designs registry, and registered designs registry, I should say. And in doing so, the law will create the institutional legal backbone for a modern IP regime that's appropriate for a small island jurisdiction such as Jersey. So, as previously mentioned, we currently have these sub-registers. And it's been, the Register of Rights have been maintained at the Judicial Greffe. The Judicial Greffe has acted as the registrar to whom an application for IP registration must be made. If adopted, the draft law will relocate Jersey's IP registry to the Jersey Financial Services Commission. I would like to place on record my thanks to the Judicial Greffe, which has capably managed to maintain Jersey's current intellectual property registers since the middle of the last century. As I mentioned, this is not an ideal arrangement constitutionally, owing to the role of the Judicial Greffier in the island's judicial system. Having the Judicial Greffe perform the executive function of administering the intellectual property registry blurs the line between judicial and executive roles. If disputes arise about the Judicial Greffier's registration decisions, appeals may go to the Royal Court, the same institution that is served by the Greffier. This evidently will become a non-issue if the draft law is it's adopted and the IP registry is placed under the administration of the Jersey Financial Services Commission. And there is a much higher level of technical administrative work arising from the operation of a primary register of trade, which isn't within the resources of the Judicial Greffier. But I do wish to advise members that the Judicial Greffier has been engaged throughout the drafting process and has expressed her full support for the proposals set out in the draft law. The proposal has been taken with regard to the Commission's status as an independent body, which already holds and maintains various other registers in Jersey. And of course, there's been extensive consultation with the Commission and its proposed appointees registrar. And I'm also grateful for their full support for this important piece of draft legislation. I've got a load of words here about how it helps efficiency and credibility, but we get to the point of the day where I know everybody's fed up with hearing me talking and work probably about 10 minutes ago. I've also answered in the context of the previous law, this explains why it's so good to do both at the same time, that basically having this registry, it's anticipated that it will in time generate income for the island. A couple of other details, I've already mentioned it provides the Minister to be consulted by the Commission with respect to fees. And there's also, the law contains a broad order-making power for the Minister to regulate practice and procedure under the law and provides that anyone will have the right to inspect the new register and this creates transparency, legal certainty and helps businesses avoid conflicts with existing rights before applying for registration of a trademark. So, without much more ado, I just hope that members will support this proposition and move the principles of this draft law and call for the appel.
Well, let's do that after we've had a debate on the principles.
Sorry, I forgot about them. I hope the chair of the Economic and International Affairs panel will forgive me, sir. Thank you, sir.
Are the principles seconded?
Yes, sir.
Does anyone wish to speak on the principles? Yes, don't tell you.
I suppose I'd better speak, sir. I'd have been quite happy to go to the vote, I think, sir. So the Assistant Minister is quite right. It does make eminent sense to take these two pieces together. They do go hand in hand. I would just like to add that, of course, our scrutiny, similarly to the last proposal that was brought just a few moments ago, was scrutinised by our panel, probably on similar occasions, actually, to the ones I mentioned previously. We do understand that the draft law establishes a new intellectual property register and the Office of the Registrar of IP Rights, so intellectual property. This is necessary because of the move to a primary trademark registration system, which will significantly increase workload, which we've been told would make it impractical for the judicial grefg to continue managing that register. Obviously, the Assistant Minister has also given other reasons why it's desirable, on top of that, to perhaps move away from using the judicial grefg for the registry. So the proposed structure does align with international standards and introduces a more digital, sophisticated offering under what will be under the JFSC. So we've issued comments, as we did for the last paper, because they are quite brief. I'm just going to read part of it because I think part of what might be interesting for members is the question around how the new registry works and the new system, and in particular the fees that might be charged and accrued from that. So the panel was advised that fees for applications and registrations would be set by the JFSC after consultation with the Minister, and that the aim of the fee of the income would hopefully be, first of all, to offset the costs of the draft law that it mentions, and that any funds will only be provided as a needed basis. So during one of our hearings earlier on in 2024, the head of competition and intellectual property said to us that currently revenue generated through the registrar is very low. However, if we look at a comparable jurisdiction across the world, or comparable jurisdictions that have made these changes, including Guernsey. Are we still allowed to mention Guernsey, sir? I'll just check. I'm not sure these days. Their registry has now been able to generate a significant level of revenue. We are not saying that we will be able, that will be available in Jersey from day one, but there's certainly potential to generate revenue that would offset part of the running costs, but that's more of a medium to long-term ambition. So our panel was advised, sir, that if there is any surplus income, that this would be paid to the Treasury of the States. With regards to resource implications, we understand that should the draft law be adopted, there'll be no additional resource implications. So we were also told that the government plan was approved by the States Assembly, had an amount of £300,000 in going forward, but we are looking to spend, this is a quote, they are looking to spend in the region of £240,000 on this project. So I suppose it's also worth observing that there is a question of whether or not in future this will generate income, or if there is any surplus income generated, will there be conversations about government perhaps reducing any support that it might give to JFSC. I'm not sure what levels they receive at the moment. But I think it is potentially quite exciting that Jersey is keeping pace with this. I was just thinking to myself, actually, whilst the Minister was moving this, in some ways it can seem quite dry, but of course, at the very base, what we're talking about here is really exciting, because it's not just about economics, it's about culture more widely. When trademarks are registered, intellectual property is registered. It could be something as simple as a product, which the Assistant Minister, I think, mentioned some very well-known products, whether it be a sound, a logo, or whatever it could be, sometimes quite intangible. But otherwise, it can also relate to the creative industry. So we are talking about music, we're talking about the written word here, we're talking about all sorts. And so I see this very much as not being put forward just from an economic point of view, but this is something that a Minister for Culture, which is perhaps what the Assistant Minister has been acting in part of that capacity today, she is bringing this forward both from an economic perspective, but also from a cultural perspective. And I think it does have the potential not just to bring Jersey into the 21st century in terms of its joining the Madrid Protocol, but also in joining up some of the great creativity that we have on Ireland, because we've talked a lot about, up till now, about the ability for global entities to register their trademarks, their intellectual property in Jersey. But of course, it is also the other way around. It's possible for Jersey startups, Jersey intellectual property, yes, to be registered in Jersey, but to be registered and protected throughout Europe and throughout the world. So it does tie in very much with the fact that Jersey, as a small island, is a global player. And certainly from our part as a scrutiny panel, we've been very pleased to be able to scrutinise and watch the progress of this new law and these new arrangements coming forward. And it certainly will form part of our legacy report, I'm sure, for future panels and the future assembly. So can I just welcome also this second part of what the Assistant Minister and the Department is doing.
Thank you, Deputy. Deputy Alex Curtis.
Thank you, sir. And I don't have much to say. I would like to thank the Economic and International Affairs Scrutiny Panel, primarily on what they've helped bring clarity in their comments about funding. Members will know that the page 4 of the report has the financial and staffing implications, and it is highlighted that there is no new money required, and members need only turn to the Government Plan 2024 to 2027 to see the budget. I believe they have to turn to page 116 to find the budget line, which has intellectual property framework, £300,000 recurring revenue. So it is very helpful that the panel in their comments have highlighted the funding. I would make note to the Assistant Minister and to those who are bringing forward legislation, especially where it provides for a new statutory function, that funding implications could be far clearer than a point to a late page in a former government plan that highlights recurring funding. We may not all have the time to find that line. And in closing, so then to bring a further clarity, the comments from the panel have highlighted that the indicative running costs may be closer to 240,000, with a hope for recouping. I think any further detail about preliminary discussions about fee setting would be helpful in summing up the principles as to the level at which cost recovery or competitiveness come into setting those. And finally, any comment on the start-up costs, and the comments do say there will be start-up costs. The funding in the 2024 government plan is purely for revenue expenditure growth and revenue costs. I expect that's where the money will be drawn from, perhaps from underspends in former years. But again, how The delivery of the new software, any systems changes from a capital perspective will be funded, and the cost of those would be helpful in just understanding the impact of the delivery of what is, again, I think highlighted a welcome step. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Deputy. Does anyone else speak on the principles? Assistant Minister.
Thank you, sir. So I want to thank the Deputy Tadier for being so eloquent in explaining why this law is not as dry as, and indeed the two laws aren't, when they might sound dry, they're very technical. But in fact, it's all about creativity. And following on from the comments about the potential income to the Registrar, I do have a copy of the Midrid Yearly Review, which refers to what Guernsey actually made from being part of this, the Midrid system. And in 2023, that was £100,509. In 2024, they don't seem to have done so well. They got £96,096. The interesting thing here is there's a percentage of the total amount distributed under the system, and they pulled 0%. There's a lot of money and creativity, potentially, provided it's commercialised. And fees, we talked a bit about surplus fees. So basically, yes, the Commission needs to cover its costs of running the registry, but the surplus will be go to the Treasury as provided under the Public Service Manual. Yes, I apologise to Deputy Curtis and Alex Curtis, and agree that maybe the proposition could have been a bit more clear about the amount of funding needed. In fact, it's not 300,000, it was reduced to 260, I believe. I believe that actually is intended to cover the costs of the new registry, and basically how that's to be set up. There has been research into what would be the more appropriate system. The name of it, I'm afraid, which could be of specific interest to him, doesn't come to my mind, but it is one that is used by quite a few established IP registries. With that, sir, I suspect that basically people would just be keen for me to ask members to support it and call for the appel.
Appel has been called for. Members are invited to return to their seats. And the greffier invited to open the voting. If all members have the opportunity of casting their votes, I ask the greffier to close the voting. Principles have been adopted unanimously, 44 votes for. And Deputy Tadier, you've confirmed that your panel have scrutinised this matter.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Assistant Minister, do you propose the articles in second reading?
I do, sir, en bloc.
Are the articles seconded? Thank you. Does any member wish to speak on the articles in second reading? Those in favour, please kindly show. Thank you very much. The articles are adopted in second reading. Minister, do you propose the matter in third reading?
I do, sir.
Are the articles seconded in third reading? Does anyone wish to speak on the articles as adopted in second reading in third reading? Yes, Deputy.
It's just quickly, it was remiss of me not to thank my panel officers and panel members for the work that they've done on this. Even though they were fairly routine comments, they did reflect the fact that we'd received and asked and answered, had answered many questions during the briefings and quarterly hearings. So we're happy to maintain our support in the third reading.
Thank you, Deputy. Does anyone else wish to speak in third reading? I call upon the Assistant Minister to reply. Yes, Deputy Scott.
Yes, I'm replying, sir, and I just would like to thank the panel members again, and indeed the whole States Assembly. You may not realise this when you go home tonight, but you've actually supported a really important turning point in intellectual property protection and in terms of the innovative economy that we're hoping to build in this island. Thank you.
Thank you. Is the appel called for?
Yes, sir.
The appel has been called for. Members are invited to return to their seats. And the greffier is invited to open the voting. All members have got the opportunity of casting their votes. I ask the greffier to close the voting. I announce that the matter has been adopted unanimously in third reading, 44 votes for. Adjournment proposed. Members content to adjourn? The Assembly is adjourned until 9:30 tomorrow morning.